Basement Dungeon. Poor Siblings Become the Strongest and Enjoying Exploration Volume 2. Chapters 19 to 41. Transfer, 15th floor entrance. As I say this, I walk over to the magic circle in between to move between levels, and after a sensation of floating, my surroundings change. Hey, let's go. Haru quickly climbs the stairs and goes to the 14th level. Of course, I can't leave Haru alone in the dungeon, so I follow her. I wondered how long it would take for the enemies to show up. Such concerns seem to be unfounded. Hey, we're here. Let me do it. Just give me speed. Haru, leave me half speed. 10 shadows can be seen from the other side of the corridor. Wolves, sounds good. By the way, what is the result of analysis? Lesser wolf. I don't think there are many of its kind in the dungeon. Haru kicks the ground and leaps with a shout. In no time she's standing in the center of the pack of wolves. She blew off a wolf's neck as soon as she came in. Oh, I have overdone it. The weapon is swayed parallel to the ground as if she was conserving momentum or she's about to start spinning. Attacking in less than a second. That alone killed 6 wolves. Hey, leave half of them. While complaining to Haru, I used stealth to go behind the enemy. If I pick up the axe, the game will be over in an instant. Instead of attacking the whole pack like Haru, I quickly defeated them one head one by one. Blank or not, they're weak. Haru, well, yeah, they're too weak. Would you like to try casually fighting a Minotaur? Let's do that. Haru, when she decided to do so, we quickly went down to the 15th floor and opened the gate. There was the Minotaur sitting on a rock like last time. Then, let's clear it at the fastest time. Power speed bind. Top romance novels. A magic circle appeared, strengthening us, and thorny vines bind the Minotaur for a few seconds. The fastest impact, and decouple. Haru, Gaga. Minotaur? The Minotaur tries to pick up its weapon, but its hands are tied by the thorny vines and cannot be used. And as it happens, a magical explosion burned its whole body and blew the weapon far away. Ready, go. Haru and Suddenly, with voices heard from its front and back, the Minotaur raises its face searching through the smoke from the explosion. Then a protruding metal appeared in front of it. Needless to say, it's Haru's shovel. The shovel can't be avoided or parried. Hit its neck, cutting through the hard outer shin but still not deep enough to pierce anything vital. And then, it's over. A machete that came from behind enters the gap in the skin cut by the shovel. In the next moment, the Minotaur's body and head are separated. Oh, it's over. Minotaurs aren't that strong if you prevent them from picking up their weapons. It was completely done in. Haru, well, are the drops the axe and meat? Unfortunately we can't bring such a big axe home. Haru says it's an axe with a total length of 1 meter. It looks nothing like the axes we use. We can't bring it home, so we'll throw it away here. Instead, we'll bring the meat home. The boss's meat looks delicious. Then, let's move to the 16th floor. Yeah, I want an enemy that gives a little more challenge. Well, brother, you might want to take this axe home. How about we leave this axe at the 15th floor exit and take it back if it's not gone when we leave? Haru, well, but why? I tried to analyze this axe since I was curious. Haru said and explained what she got from the analysis. Steel battle axe, skill, strong slash. Haru, what's this? It has a skill. Do weapons learn skills? Maybe you can use it while using this axe. Based on the name, it's a skill I've never seen before. Haru, well, we're only looking at the Minotaur's skills, but it's true that we should take it home. The axe was easily lifted contrary to my expectations. It's probably just that my status has improved. When we get on the magic circle and move to the 15th floor exit, I placed the axe down somewhere safe. So, are you ready to go? Advertisements. Yup. Haru. We go down the stairs to the 16th floor. Going down. Why is it long? Haru. At this point, we've been walking 5 times longer than the stairs that go up the other floors. It's long, but we're near. A breeze is coming in. That's strange. This is a cave. The wind shouldn't pass through. Haru. In the dungeon, you can breathe without any problem even if you try burning things. Mysteriously there's no problem. However, I have never felt the wind in the dungeon. From there, we go down 1 floor further. It's a breeze. My perception detected it. I can also tell that the environment has changed significantly, not just the flow of air. Gradually, I can feel the wind on my skin and I see light. This is a dungeon beyond human comprehension. There is wind and the light is a little too bright even for the dungeon. What's with the 16th floor? We finished down the stairs and head towards the light. An outdoor stage, Kandharu. As we stepped out into the light, we could see trees standing tall all around us. It feels like a dungeon, with the trees standing in a row as if they've been maintained as if it never gets dark. Brother, the ceiling is strange. Haru tells me, so I look up through the trees and see an off-white rock ceiling far above us. And there were stone-like objects of various sizes that emitted an intense light. The light was so strong that it was hard to directly look at it, so I could only observe them as stone-like. Haru, what is the result when using analysis on that stone? It's too far for the skill to reach. The skill only has a 5-meter range. Haru, analysis, range is unexpectedly short-narrow. I look around while muttering such thoughts. The first thing I noticed was that it was too quiet. Unlike here, ordinary forests should have insect calls and birds singing, but there are no such sounds. No, I feel like there are a few of those. The numbers are just too small. Probably, because the only creatures here are monsters. Brother, come here. Haru. Oh, it's been a long time. It's a hobgoblin. The first monster that approached us was a goblin. However, the physique is fierce and huge. It was almost identical to the hobgoblin that had been the boss of the 5th lair. The only difference was that there were 4 of them within their pack. Impact. Haru. When Haru raises her shovel forward and chants, the hobgoblins popped in the blink of an eye. They can't be considered an enemy after all. Is there only weak enemies? A shadow passes overhead at a tremendous speed while I was talking. At the same time, there was a sign that it was too big to be grasped by my perception, skill. Not its size, but the oppressive presence it gives off was different from that of the Minotaur. Brother, that looks bad. Haru. Oh, I don't feel like I can win. What we saw was a winged lizard. It was the so-called flying dragon. We don't know its exact strength because, analysis, cannot reach it due to the distance. However, advertisements, that strength is probably. Haru. If there are about 10 Minotaurs, they'd be killed instantly. Hey, I have something I want to try. Use power and chain on me. Full power. Haru. I understand. Power and chain. Haru's body glowed. Then she silently gazed above. Hey, let's cooperate. Buff my skills, and I will buff your skills with chain. Haru. What do you mean? I will try to apply my analysis on brother's perspective using chain. I want to analyze that dragon. Haru. I got it. Thinking about the dangers that followed, we approached the cave where the stairs we came down to are before looking up again. At the moment when the flying dragon was closest to us, we focused and used perspective. And at the same time as we accurately grasped the appearance of the flying dragon, magical power flows through my body. It was also at that time the flying dragon saw us. Speed. In a hurry, I enchanted Haru and myself. Then I took Haru's hand and leapt into the cave. Still, we don't stop. We ran to the back of the cave and up the stairs. It's safe to enter the cave because the body of that flying dragon is too big. We should have been safe. Jaya. Dragon. The roar overflowing with power echoes from outside the cave. It came with an avalanche of the strong flow of magical power. Scythe, Morning Star, and Haru. We just take out the treasure without thinking and shake with all your might toward the torrent of magical power that cracks the wall and raises sand smoke and approaches at a tremendous speed. Natilda. Kandharu. The treasures were repelled very easily with the torrent of magical power that is neither spell nor substance. As a matter of course, it flicks us from the middle of the stairs against the wall. I couldn't even make a sound because of the magical power. That was my final conscious thought. Chapter 20. I can hear a voice from somewhere. As I was being shaken. Brother. Haru. Oh, did Haru come to wake me up? That's unusual. I'm always the earlier to wake. Haru was terrible in waking up in the morning. I'm going to get up soon. Anyway, every part of my body aches. Maybe it's because I slept in a hard place. A hard place? Brother. Haru. Oh, where are we? The place where I was sleeping was a cavity surrounded by rocks. At its center was the spiral staircase, also made of rock. Well, I don't remember what happened. Help me understand. I think deeply for a few moments, causing Haru to look panicked, but I soon remembered. I'm sure I was blown away by the flying dragon before losing consciousness. Brother, I'm glad you remember. I don't think I'll have a hard time explaining. How are you feeling? For the time being, I got up and stretched. There was a popping sound from my body, probably from the stiffness, but it's just a sound that means nothing, so in words, my body just enjoys producing sounds. No problem. I slept in a hard place, so my body is stiff, but that's it. So what time is it now? Taking the pocket watch out of the bag and I check the time. The hands of the clock have stopped. I tried turning the screw, and it didn't seem to be broken. That means, sponsored. What type of reader are you? Haru, we're going home now. We've slept too much. My pocket watch can keep running for at least 24 hours. But it's stopped. In addition, I'm pretty hungry. This is what it means. We may have slept for more than 24 hours. Eh? Haru, I started hurriedly prepare to go back home without giving a long explanation. It's going to be hard to walk on an empty stomach, so I drank a bottle of potion instead. Haru does the same. Even if I say that we are going home in a hurry, we just have to go up the long stairs and make a transition at the 15th floor exit. By the way, the axe of the Minotaur that I left behind was gone. When I moved to the first layer, nothing happened and we came back home. The time is 3 in the afternoon. We left home yesterday at 10 in the morning, so we were in the dungeon for 29 hours. I'm back. Haru. As soon as Haru declares it, she removes her equipment and goes to the table. Brother, please hurry and make food. Haru. I know. I'm hungry too, so I don't want to waste time, so I fry steak even though it's just noon. Naturally, I use the meat from the dungeon. Lightly seasoned with salt, it feels more delicious than usual now that I'm terribly famished. I continued to fry additional vegetables and silently mix some for a vegetable salad. We finished the meal in a flash. We clean up the dishes while chatting lightly about nothing. And before we could say anything to each other, we were back at the table. So, brother, I'm sorry for the dangerous experience yesterday. So about what I found out. Haru. Yesterday I did agree with the suggestion. So there's nobody who was to blame. So about what you found from analysis. Yes, analysis skill allows you to see the status and description of any object up to a certain range. Haru. Well, you've done it many times. So, with monsters, you can see their strength, regardless of how strong they are. Haru. Oh, I don't think I heard that before. Was it the sum of strength and magic? I've heard information about strength. We are about 150 in total for both magic capacity and strength. It seems that the Minotaurs have 160. However, since both humans and monsters use weapons, it is not very helpful. So, in other words, the strength of the flying dragon was strange? Yeah, this is the result of using analysis on the flying dragon. Haru quickly writes it on a piece of paper and shows it to me. Wind Dragon Rimdagma, Strength 1050, 16th to 20th floor boss. T/N, or Imudobumuru. I don't know if this name is based on anything. What? Advertisements. Hey, this is true. I didn't make any mistake. Haru. This must be wrong. The value of its strength was too huge, it made me say it. That's not the case. Even at 105, we can win by ourselves. Haru. That's right. We shouldn't feel like we can win because of pure strength. So far, the total strength is about 3 times the level. By the time we have the same value as the flying dragon, we will have to be at level 350. We can't count on our strength, but we have skills and magic and weapons can reduce the difference. Haru. Well, it's hard to beat in our current state, so that's what the 16th to 20th floor bosses are like. Does it mean that the 16th until the 20th floor happens in the forest? Haru. Most likely. Unexpectedly, I feel disheartened in various ways, but we can still do the same routine. We were so absorbed in being entertained by the dungeon exploration that we could never quit dungeon exploration. Will we go to the 16th floor tomorrow? Yeah, finding item drops is fun. Haru. Before we go back to our usual routine, I call a certain place. Hey, Kaizaki-kun. It's true that there aren't many customers here in the countryside, so I can manage the shifts alone. However, if you can't come, You have to contact me immediately. Manager, I'm sorry I didn't get in touch with you. I lost consciousness, and of course, I skipped my shift at my part-time job that was supposed to be today. Hire, Fisher, Haru, Gaga. Monster. Multiple monsters are torn apart by Fisher, that could also tear through space. Monsters who die shortly after resisting raised a death wail. The reason why this happened was because of some circumstances and good luck. We were back on the 16th floor again. And one more thing I noticed. There was a magic circle in the corner of the cavity at the end of the stairs down to the 16th floor. Of course, it's a transition magic circle. I used it to find out where I was and found that it was the entrance to the forest. That's right. The 16th to 20th floor of the forest may be collectively called forest. While discovering such a thing, we set out to explore the forest. Many of the enemies that appeared in the forest were different. The wolf monster had brownish fur instead of the gray one that had appeared before, and it was a little hard to see in the forest. There are also chameleons that aren't detected with perception, let alone see. Well, there are various types and groups of enemies, and each monster is strong. Their skin was so hard that it couldn't be defeated with a single blow from a light swing. There is no choice but to attack their necks one by one. And there's one more. Haru also made a change. Since Rimdabma is flying above, it will be difficult if its attention is caught by something. That's why I stopped her from using explosive magic, but that would reduce her means of attack. So she did various trials and errors before finding a solution. Haru's magic attribute has changed. Thanks to that, Haru's current status is like this. Name, Haruka. Skill, Magic, Craft. Magic attribute, Fisher. Explosion, Electric. Level, 44. Advertisements. Strength, 51. Magic capacity, 102. Skill, Analysis. Magic, Bomb, Time Bomb, Impact, Number, Plasma, Fisher. Passive, Magic Recovery, Detection, Crafting. The magic that can be used has changed due to the change in her magic attribute. As seen, the name is Fisher, and the power is horrifying. It's magic that cuts through the enemy including space. The strength of the magic is irrelevant, and you can't even resist it unless the enemy's magic is high. It was an attack that ignored defense. What would happen if such magic could be used? That is the current situation. Brother, I'll go next. Haru calls out livelier than usual. I'm going, but you're killing them way too fast. It's about twice as fast as mine. I wonder if I should use magic too. I follow Haru while whispering. I'm not using magic for saying this. The only thing is, even though I'm saying this, I'm not using magic. The only thing I'm using is my stealth skill. It's cool to sneak up behind an enemy and chop off their head with a machete, and it's also useful for keeping them from screaming as they die, so I use it a lot. So I'm okay with the slow rate of subjugating them because of that. And from there, we just changed our hunting ground to the 16th floor, and our normal life proceeded. There was nothing special to think about, it's just simple everyday life. But that can't last for long. Unbeknownst to us, the next problem will probably be closer than we thought. Chapter 21. I feel that our pastime has recently become conducting experiments in the dungeon. Since the existence of the dungeon itself is unclear, we can experiment as many times as we like, and now Haru and I are talking about raising the hunting efficiency. There have been no cards that we have been able to obtain since we learned about the potential of skill cards. The drop rate of the cards is extremely low, probably less than 0.1%. If not less than 1%. So we decided that we needed to get new skill cards in order to increase our strength, which led us to the idea that we needed to improve our hunting efficiency. So far, the forest has the highest density of monsters in the dungeon. Haru. That's right. Yes, the strength was a little uneven, but the frequency of meeting monsters was the highest. Then, exploring in the forest is the best. The problem is, Haru. It's Rimdabma. So, I want to verify the conditions that will have him focus on us. Sure. Haru. The first time we analyzed it, it reacted and chased us. But the next time we explored it, we found that it didn't react to loud noises. Perhaps it doesn't focus on anything except when it is targeted or if it is attacked. For now, I'd have to find out if it reacts to Haru's Impact. If it doesn't react, we can lure other monsters with sound and kill them all at once. Since we know from our previous explorations that monsters are attracted to sound. Well, for the time being, we're just experimenting. Then, it's time to stop sparring and explore the dungeon. Yup. Haru, although we are talking, we are currently in the process of sparring. Recently, we have become accustomed to the movements of each other and have become accustomed to our own movements, so we have more room to spar. So we inspected our equipment and entered the dungeon. Haru also looked at his status by analysis, and it seems that she is following while changing her magic attribute from fissure to explosion. In fact, I can't say for sure because I can only see Haru constantly scanning the skies, and I can't see the status that Haru would have seen from analysis. Enter the magic circle as usual when entering during the transition, forest. As usual, my surroundings changed instantly and I was in a hollow with a spiral staircase in the middle. Of course, this is the 16th to 20th level forest. It is the domain of the flying dragon. So, are you ready to go? When we got out of the cave, we immediately entered the forest, and Rimdabma is flying over it. I'm going. Impact, and decouple. Haru. 10 balls of light flew into the forest, causing a chain of huge explosions just in Rimdabma's periphery as it flies in the sky. No problem. Haru. Flying gracefully without showing any interest. It would have been a majestic sight if it wasn't an enemy. Unfortunately, I don't feel happy about monsters that have the power to blow people away with their loud roar. Brother, they're coming. Haru. Haru doesn't care about my ruminations once she sees groups of tens of monsters approaching, making the huge trees fall down. It means that artificial stampede is possible. Then, I'll charge in quickly. After saying that, I climbed a nearby tree with just 3 jumps, and when I looked down at the monster from above, I leapt immediately. Guard, power, speed, chain. Quickly, I enchanted myself with buffs and hold the machete as if I was using an axe chop wood. And as soon as I reached the ground, I cast another spell. Bind. Because of chain, multiple binding vines jumped out of the ground while the monsters are blown away. It's a technique that can only be used by choosing the opponent to be restrained using bind. It can go wrong, but if I win, there is no problem. Oh yeah. Hitting the vines around me with all my might with the face of the machete. What happens from this? The power of the slam is spread by chain, and the binding vines covered in thorns squeeze the monster as they were slithering as it tears its victims apart. If I kill a monster while under this, it will bind another monster, and its power increases for every monster I defeat. I kept on it, using it to stack the time so that the bindings don't disappear. Brother, dodge. Haru. I heard her voice that mysteriously could reach me, kicking the binding vines. I jumped up again. Impact, decouple. Haru. After Haru chanted, the light struck the place where I was and blew up all the monsters. Quickly, I land and deal with the surviving monsters. We're done. Haru. Haru seems to have checked the surroundings before telling me that there are no monsters. Good work. I say a few words in return, then we collected some of the more noteworthy items from the monster drops. And then, advertisements. So, let's go for round 2. We went on clearing the forest and hunting monster after monster. However, something happened abruptly. After hunting like this 5 times, I'm becoming worried about the signs of an enemy remaining underground for some reason. It was in the ground after we transitioned, or something? Haru. Haru says, but nothing happens. Currently, it is moving in the ground in an ever-changing form. That's why I hold hands with Haru. What we are going to do is the same as what we did with Rimdabma. Our skill will perceive the enemy underground and analyze it. We try it after taking a distance in case it is abnormally strong. Analysis. Haru. The sign in the ground moved. It's heading here, and I'm sure analysis will work. While thinking about such things, I focused on the perceived signs and move on to avoiding them. It is called an earth dragon and the total strength was 300. It was a dragon. Be careful. Haru. I pull Haru aside as she relays the report of the result. Well, that's right. It's so strong that you have to be careful. From the ground, we see a giant rat-shaped body with brown hair and sharp claws. Haru, the earth dragon is red, called as a mole, not a dragon. I told Haru and faced the mole. Don't hold back. Let's our best. We shouldn't die no matter what, but let's wait and see for now. We hold our weapons. We were once again able to meet a strong enemy. Chapter 22. Then, let's go. Speed, power, guard. As usual, I buff Haru and charge in as the vanguard. However, it doesn't start immediately attacking us. We are observing it for any attack patterns while watching the opponent. The Earth Dragon begins to move, but we keep our distance from the claws of the Earth Dragon. Slow. Haru. The body of the Earth Dragon was suited for moving underground, but it is quite slow in moving above ground. It's a monster, so I was worried if it could move quickly on the ground as well, so this was quite a relief. Since I confirmed the speed of the enemy, I rushed into the gaps on the Earth Dragon's defense while focusing on my speed. It seems dangerous to attack its nose, for the moment. So, I went around to the side, before kicking the ground and quickly moving from that spot. Since I felt something was wrong with the Earth Dragon that I kept in check using perspective, almost. At that moment, the claws of the Earth Dragon swung through the spot where I was before, gouging the ground. Its attacks are fast. There was almost no precursory action. I almost didn't dodge it. Haru, who was waiting behind me, approached. I think it attacked after it had accumulated strength. As I understood from my perception, its muscles were slowly contracting. Wow, what a monster! HNG, bomb, and sextuple. Haru readied her shovel with a magic circle on it. Suddenly we noticed that a magic circle suddenly appears at the tip of the Earth Dragon's nose, which has been quite far from us. Then 7 earthen thorns made by the Earth Dragon's magic were blown away instead by Haru's magic. It can even fight at a long distance. It's well-rounded and troublesome. Moreover, it can simultaneously counterattack. Haru will be added for a while, so you should change magic attributes and go for one suited for close range. Okay, I will. Haru. Standing in front of Haru, I ready my machete. It seems that the Earth Dragon has already given up closing the distance, and the magic circle appears again at the tip of its nose. There is more magical power being used. Chain. Far from having melee combat skills, I don't have attack skills or attack magic, so my combat ability is lower than that of Haru. That is why I supplement it with a little magic and technique. I would have to use chain to counter the magic attack flying towards me, a spell far from my normal range. Earthen stakes pop out near the magic circle. About 9 of them. Is the power about the same? I daringly approached the magic flying towards me and cut off the first stake. It would be nice if all the stakes could be destroyed in the same way, but my speed and skill were insufficient. In addition, my weapons are not suitable for this. That's why I put my strength into a single blow. The force exerted on the machete is transmitted the moment the first stake is smashed, cracking the other spines. Then, I slipped through the stakes and swung my machete towards the last stake. Not surprisingly, the slash was contagious and destroyed all the thorns. Brother, I'm ready. Haru. Okay, go and do it. Kicking the ground with all my might, I charged forward, and the moment I enter the range of the Earth Dragon, I use stealth. It lost sight of me as I continued to approach. If it's someone not quite used to fighting a certain enemy, they'll focus their attention on it. And it was the same with the Earth Dragon. Now, in an instant, I moved to the side of the Earth Dragon and called out. The Earth Dragon immediately spun to where I am and stretched its claws. For a moment it forgot about the existence of the other person. Fisher, Dio. Haru. Crash. The sound of hard objects colliding with each other echoed. Soon, the Earth Dragon, which was attacked by Haru's full power from behind, loses its posture and collapses. Chain. I use chain again and hit the machete towards its nose. So, let the attack be multiplied. It all landed in the same place. So, what if all that power got transmitted and gathered in one place? Naturally, it will stack up multiple times. Bam. Jeez. The sound of hard objects hitting each other echoed again, and the Earth Dragon screamed for the first time. However, this is bad. Brother, its status is higher than expected. Haru. We were certainly hitting the enemy's undefended parts with the maximum firepower we could use. Even so, the sound of collision is the sound of hard objects colliding with each other. The enemy is too hard to crack. If this happens, it can't be helped. Haru, fight seriously. Throwing the machete, I freed my hand. My level is 47 and yours is 48. So it's about 8 minutes. Can you do it? If we can't do it, we can't beat this guy. Haru also threw her shovel away. Advertisements. Then, let's go. Scythe, Morning Star, and Haru. Our magic weapons appeared in our hands. The last time we used it is to guard against the loud roar of Rimdabma, who somehow focused on us. The weapons enhance our skills and magic. At that time, I used speed and power. So, whenever I had the weapon, I felt that I could use more power. An actual battle that doubles as verification of 1 or 8 of my questions. I activated stealth as soon as I was near the dragon's feet. The skill that hides my presence is strengthened, and even my image is fully obscured. My silhouette becoming blurry and nondescript through stealth. It seemed to have lost sight of me. However, this is also the Earth Dragon. I'm paying close attention to its every movement. Until recently, I wouldn't have been able to make a surprise attack. That's from before. I carefully but swiftly moved in front of the Earth Dragon and swung the scythe with all my might. Gwa! Earth Dragon. It roared. The slash seems to have been shallow. However, the depth of the slash doesn't matter when concerning the eyes. If it's hit, you will most likely lose your eyesight. Fisher, Tliakappal, Haru's Morning Star was swung in front of it. The spell seemed far different from before. 10 fissures in space cut through the dragon's face and the Morning Star's spikes pierced its face and blew it away. Jaya! Earth Dragon. A magic circle spun around the Earth Dragon as it rose and stood up. Magical power crawled underground and moved towards the direction we are standing in. Haru, jump! At the same time as we jumped diagonally forward, multiple earthen stakes sprouted. This is the end. Fisher, Tliakappal, Haru. Along with Haru's chant, a crack in space is created on the Earth Dragon's face made from 10 fissures neatly overlapping. It's quite the nasty move to pile on a crack after another. And then, chain, power, enchanting again, I quickly approach the blinded Earth Dragon. Then, I swung my scythe. Victory is ours. The scythe, which I swung out with all my might, pierced the wound made by Haru and destroyed its brain. Instant death. In a flash, the Earth Dragon turned to mist and disappeared. Good work, brother. Haru. Good work, too. I high-fived Haru before checking the Earth Dragon's drop item. There are 2 cards and a leather bag left behind. First of all, the skill cards. Of course, touching the card turned it into mist as soon as I used it, so the other one was used by Haru. Brother, let's go home for today. It's time, right? Haru, looking at the pocket watch. It's 6 p.m. It's definitely a good time to go back. Advertisements. Then, should we go home? When we go home, analyze this bag. We left with the mysterious leather bag and the excitement of finding new skills in our hearts. By the way, on the way back, we went to the boss room of the Minotaur and defeated it quickly. I also took back the huge iron axe this time. And after returning to the Kaizaki family house, what we discovered was beyond amazing. Brother, I haven't confirmed your skill yet, and this bag is too dangerous. It's like this. Haru writes it on paper and gives it to me as usual. Item pouch, small. Can store up to a ton and invalidates weight of stored items. In other words, it's a bag that can hold up to 1 ton. It also doesn't increase in weight like that jar. With this, the results of our hunts were going to soar. However, an unexpected storm is on the horizon. Chapter 23. Oh, brother. We can enter. Haru, who was looking at the computer, suddenly said it to me. What do you mean? Dungeon Exploration License Exam. We can take it now. Haru. Ah, finally. It is now April 5th. The other day, the dungeon was finally open to the public. The first day the dungeon was open to the public, there were no particular incidents. No one was seriously injured or killed. There were a few people who got into fights and were taken to the police station, but it appears that the rules forbidding the use of weapons are firmly in place, and there were only minor fistfights with bare hands. Then came the test for the dungeon search license. Because of the large number of people, the number of people who can take the test in a day is determined by the number of venues and the number of people exploring the dungeon. The number of people who can take the exam is determined by an online lottery. At first, the number of applicants was quite high, but it's been a week since the exam started. The number of test takers has been decreasing and it seems to be easier to get a spot in the lottery. I heard that from next week, the frequency of the tests will gradually decrease. They're going to reduce the frequency of tests to once a week, then once a month, and in a year to once every 3 months. And we won the lottery, which we've been failing for a long time, and we're going to take the test tomorrow. I always wonder how fast the dungeons work. When you win the lottery, you don't have time to prepare for the next day. I don't have time to prepare for the next day's exam. After taking the exam, the results will be posted online the next day. And the license will be issued at the Dungeon Explorers Association, which is located next to the dungeon dam in each dungeon. Incidentally, the Dungeon Explorers Association has a long name, and as a result of a suggestion by a fan of novels, it's known as the Guild. Anyway, it was time for the test. When you level up, there's not that much difference in real-world muscle strength, except when you get up to almost the 50th level as we did. Obviously, your strength is not equal to your physical capabilities. However, if I were to cut corners, I'm sure the professionals would know immediately, so I'd give it my all. To be honest, I'm not worried about the written exam. Since the scores are not disclosed, it is unknown how many people have failed the written exam. But we are still in our teens, and our memories are still sharp. In addition, my sister and I were able to study well enough to get an average on the final exam just by listening to the class, so we think there will be no problem. So, there was nothing to prepare. The only things I need are writing tools, money, and some proof of identity. So, in order to regain our strength for tomorrow, we decided to cancel today's dungeon exploration and took a rest at home. Because of that, this place is... There's a lot of stuff about what the government believes. Haru. We are quietly whispering while listening to the lecture in the morning. Haru first spoke to me in her normal voice and was then glared at by the people around us, so it can't be helped. After all, we didn't do anything the day before and got up early today and made some minor preparations before coming to the venue by riding on our bicycle. But the venues are all over the place, so the one-way trip was short compared to the shopping trip when we first bought our weapons. At this rate, Haru and I are being ignored. But listen carefully because such content can appear in the written exam. Yeah. Haru makes a sloppy reply, and she corrects her slack posture and turns to the front again. It's true that the government has a lot of ideas, many of which we knew from our research in the dungeon, but there are also things we didn't know that surprised us. I was surprised at how many things I didn't know. Let's look at them. If 5 or more people proceed together, the distribution of experience points will be reduced. Up to a 4-person group will have no problem. The level of the boss is twice the level of the level where the boss is located. If you leave something in a dungeon where no one can see it, it will disappear before you know it. In the boss room, everything you put in the room will disappear when the door closes after everyone leaves. Experience point earning is efficient up to the 5th level, but no results can be obtained. Monsters have basically low intelligence and you can manage aggression like in games. And you can get self-assessment, a skill that allows you to check your own status by defeating the boss on the 5th level. We were both surprised at this. We both shouted out in unison, and not only the people around us but even the teacher stared at us. We were so tired after the boss battle that we left without seeing any drops, so we can't even look at our status easily. Moreover, it was said that it was impossible to use gunpowder or electricity in the dungeon, but to be precise, it seems that it will instead use a large amount of magical power to use them. Strictly speaking, one pistol shot is about 20. It means that a person with a magic-related skill can raise their level by 10 and finally fire one shot. Certainly, it is too inefficient to use. Even Haru can only fire 6 shots. Well, in that case, crossbows can be used, so a gun is useless. It takes too long to reload, but the compressed air gun seems okay, but you probably won't need it. It would be a shame to die in the pursuit of a fantasy gun crossover. We're not that childish. The lecture ended with a lot of talks. It was a 100-minute continuous lecture. I almost fell asleep at the end of the lecture. I did my best to listen to the lecture until the end, though. I spent the rest of the day lazing around studying without doing anything in particular, ate the lunch I brought from home for lunch, and finally, the afternoon exam started. It started, but surprisingly, nothing happened. The written test was simple and light, with a time limit of 60 minutes. The practical test that followed, a marathon of sorts, was also easy, as I was used to managing my pace through regular dungeon exploration. And thanks to the status that we nurtured in the dungeon, we were able to run quite fast. We didn't know how to properly take rests, so we tried to imitate the way a group of 4 college students. They had passed us before, and before we knew it, I felt that my fatigue would disappear. Now I can run again. While I was thinking about this, the group of college students was running steadily. By the way, they were the only group of people whose running pace was faster than ours. Rumor has it that they were college students that ran marathons at their university. By the way, I consciously tried my best to avoid using my passive skill, acceleration, and we then went home. Well, of course, we were accepted. We had dinner while talking about going to the guild tomorrow, and the long-awaited dungeon exploration license came. It was harder than I expected because there were a lot more procedures. I was told that if we commit a crime while we have these licenses, we will be sentenced to harsher punishment. There was also the fact that if we were somehow involved in an incident inside, if there was an incident in the dungeon, they would do their best to investigate it. But if we got involved in every single fight or instigate monsters to hurt others outside that, there is no limit to what we could do inside. And by having a license, you will be able to act as a professional explorer. Having this license will allow us to buy mass-produced weapons for the dungeon, so we'll have to talk about buying weapons sometime today. So, brother, let's go buy weapons. Haru. Advertisements. Haru seems to be in a good mood because the troublesome procedures have been completed and she can have a decent weapon for the first time. And if we want to choose a weapon, we both have to go. Then, let's go to the guild's weapon experts area. With new hopes and expectations in our hearts, we went to the venue where various weapons are stored. Chapter 24. There are swords and axes. An old shop with various weapons such as shields, bows, and clubs. Since it was that kind of store, the thought of shopping there was exciting. Well, I'm also thrilled it's a modern store. It's sanitary and secured. We are now in the weapon experts area inside the guild. New explorers choose the weapons and skills that suit them here. Weapons can be changed, but skills cannot be changed. Those who choose a sword skill cannot use any other weapons except blades. You can still use other weapons, but the way it grows your stats is too inefficient because stat growth is affected by skills. Well, we're actually doing that. According to some kind of dungeon manual that I read at the guild, the status of a magic-related class has their magic amount increase twice per level, and strength increases once per level only. In addition to that, it seems that status will change slightly depending on experience. With weapon combat class, it is the reverse. Strength increases twice per level, and the magic amount increases only once per level. In addition, there, trap, and hunting classes that do not focus on either can only increase both once per level, but it seems that you can get special skills based on the chosen class depending on the level even if you do not get a skill card, and the skill seems to help the selected class perform a fixed action. If it's sword, it's slash. If it's club, it's bash. That's why it's important to choose a proper weapon here. However, we are already active in the dungeon and have our own weapons. As a matter of course, it is hard to use other weapons because we made some ourselves. That's why we came here to try out the weapons. Each of the places to try out the weapon is a private room with enough space for us to rent. As a matter of course, there was a good amount of money involved, and we couldn't help but smile. So, please use room 205. Weapons can be unlocked and used by holding this tag over the panel next to the weapons on display. Please note that removing the scabbard and protective gear outside the room will result in being restrained. Receptionist. Thank you. Haru stays behind while I'm talking with the receptionist. It's easy to forget because I'm usually the only one, but Haru is still shy. Basically, she gets over it with her tough spirit, but it seems she still can't talk to strangers. So, Haru, this is your tag. You can choose your weapon. Yeah, I'll choose one carefully. Haru. I handed her the tag I'd gotten at the reception and quickly headed toward the weapons. I put the tag in my pocket and started walking slowly towards the weapons. Even so, there are a lot of weapons. There are so many weapons here. Each weapon has a description of what class it is effective with. The halberd, for example, has 2 classes, sword and spear. In other words, it can both slash and stab. That's what it means. And I've already decided which weapon I'm going to use. A katana might be good. Japan has a characteristic weapon. The katana. Should it be about 80 centimeters long? I'm not sure, but I think I need the reach. So I put the tag over the panel next to me, unlocked it, and took the 80 cm katana. T/N. A katana is a single-blade Japanese sword iconic to samurai eyes. There's hardly any action, adventure anime, manga that doesn't show one. When I went straight to room 205, Haru was leaning against the door of the room. I sigh at the sight. There are two men who are trying to strike a conversation with Haru and she's blatantly ignoring them. Why are people trying to pick up in such a place? Haru is shy but she's by no means weak. Rather, she's quite tough. That's why I can only sigh heavily at the pickup duo. The men seem to be getting frustrated, but they don't try to touch her because they are all going to try out weapons. Well, is it time to interfere? Excuse me. With a casual manner, I slipped between the two men in a very natural way, opened the door with the key I received from the receptionist, and lightly pushed Haru. Oi, oi, oi. Pickup artist. The men noticed that I was already next to Haru and made a surprised voice, but I ignored them and closed the door and gave a light bow. After looking at the other person's foot for a moment, I put my foot slightly toward the door and swiftly flicked it. The other person probably tried to stick his foot in the door. His foot that was about to stop between the doors hit my foot and was twisted away, causing his foot to slip a few centimeters sideways and hit the wall next to the door instead. I heard him click his tongue, but I just removed my foot back and locked the door. This is a place to test your weapons. There are no windows and the doors are made of sturdy iron. They probably won't get involved with us anymore. Brother, how cool. Haru. I heard the sound of applause, so when I looked behind, Haru was clapping her hands. Don't make me sigh, resist a little. I mean, why pick up in a place like this? It's a place where it's okay for the other person to carry a knife. I don't think either of those two think with the head on their shoulders. Haru. Fine, yes. Then let's try out the weapons. What did you get, Haru? Tada. Here. Haru. What Haru pulled out? To be exact, what came out of the case that Haru is carrying? What is that? Haru had a metal rod that was longer than her arm, with a handle-like rod protruding from the side of the rod. It's called a tunfa. It's a tough weapon for fighting monsters. Haru. There is such a weapon here. Alright, next is mine. I didn't really understand Haru's weapon, so I quickly cut off the conversation and pulled my katana out of the scabbard. As you can see, my weapon is a Japanese sword. I haven't used a decent cutting weapon until now, so I want to use a good one. Let's practice for the time being. Haru. Haru didn't seem to be interested in my weapon either, so we were done talking. Haru holds her tunfa in her hand, grasping the handles sticking out from the main rod of the weapon, which is shaped like a katakana's handle, and she holds it as she was holding a thin shield. Advertisements. She turns it around and slides her hands to easily turn the weapon. She changes the place she's holding and swung it down with all her strength. Yeah, I think this is fine. My reach has decreased, but the variation of attacks has increased. Haru. Then, next is me. Pulling the sword out of the scabbard. Somehow I felt a sense of discomfort in my posture, so if I try to focus on my balance, the sense of discomfort decreases. If I swing it down as it is, I hear the sound of air being cut. But something is different. Brother, the tip of the sword was off like it is shaking. Haru, who was watching from the front, pointed it out to me and I swung again with that in mind. Each time I asked Haru to correct me, she went away in the middle of my swings, but after about half an hour, I felt like I was in good shape. Then, brother, let's do some light sparring. Haru. She borrowed non-lethal weapons at the reception. Haru's face is a little tight. Well, a shy person like her talked to a receptionist properly, so I'll have to praise her. I'm sure she did her best. So, ready to go? I receive a wooden sword with a sponge-covered blade from Haru and I hold it with one hand. Basically, I should hold it with both hands, but our original purpose is not interpersonal combat. I felt that it was better to be able to fight with one hand in order to fight more flexibly. Haru also holds a tunfa, which is covered with a sponge. She's holding it in the same way as before. I'm going. Haru suddenly thrusts her tunfa into a stabbing motion. While the distance is wide, I hit the wooden rod and parry it. Take this. I ducked and dove to the side before performing a feint. In the current situation where I cannot use the sword efficiently, Haru, however, is fighting with a shorter weapon. Neither of us has the advantage. Haru approached me immediately, my sword is blocked, and I cannot parry her next attack, so I decided to avoid it. I can't see a winning move. I was completely unable to see a path to victory. It's not my usual shorter-reach weapon, and it doesn't have a long handle for easy parrying. I have to change the way I fight. That's not something I can do right away, but still, I have to try countering. If I say it out loud, Haru will hear me, so I don't say it out loud, but I think about it. It's a position like I've seen on the internet. I lower my hips, hold the sword in both hands, and pull back in a thrusting position. Haru was the first to make another move. It was so sudden, so natural that I almost missed it. Haru approached him as if she was sliding across the floor. This is the gate I use, a technique I use to delay my reaction to movement. The fact that I was able to notice it must have been because I usually do it all the time. Even though my reaction was a little delayed, I slammed my front foot, as if I am about to launch myself, also to threaten my opponent. If Haru withdraws even for a moment, I will strike my sword into her. After all, Haru will not stop. She knows the risk-reward calculation well and knows that my stomping my foot is just a bluff. However, traps are meant to be doubled or tripled. Haru doesn't stop, and I thrust my sword out there with only my left hand. As a matter of course, she stops and pulls back. Now, I relax my left hand, which had been tight until it caught the sword, and watch as the sword is flicked to the right. I bend down to avoid being hit by Haru's attack and raise my left hand. Haru easily swept my hand away and thrust her tonfa at me. Just before she does, she stops her movement. Advertisements. The tip of the wooden sword extended from the right side of Haru's neck. Of course, my unused right hand held it. It has always been the way I fought. That's by using several feints. You can call it an unsavory way of fighting, but that's the way I fight. My win. Mew, I was able to use my weapon better. Haru. We finished our sparring, relaxed, and started talking as usual. You only have 5 minutes left. Speaker. The speaker above us spoke. Hey, let's go to the weapon shop next. I like tonfa. What about your brother? Haru. I want a sword too. I'll practice a little more. Yeah, it might be nice to see a professional's skills. Haru. Okay, then shall we go to the weapon shop? Yep. Haru. We return the key and go to the weapon shop. We didn't expect that we would be so depressed about the performance of the weapons in the weapon shop. Chapter 25. We left the weapons test area and are now at the weapon shop. However, there is no such thing as a dangerous weapon shop standing randomly in the middle of nowhere. In the large building next to the guild, known as the Dungeon Market, there was a company selling weapons in a designated space. However, since the dungeon had just opened to the public and many companies had not yet been able to sell their products on the market, the Dungeon Market still had a lot of unused space. It seems that dungeon explorers can naturally use it as a space for trading, deepening friendships, and giving advice. Do you have a search license? Security. Yes, wait for a second. Put yours out, Haru. Here. Haru. We are now in the process of entering the Dungeon Market. Not anyone can just enter unless they can prove that they are an explorer by presenting their explorer license. I have confirmed. Welcome to the Dungeon Market. Security. With the voice of the receptionist standing in front of the door, the metal door slides opening sideways. As we walked through the door, it closed behind us. The security system was great. However, this is still not part of the dungeon. No matter how much the group with swords goes wild, if you have a gun, you can suppress them, but the security here is too strict, right? Haru. Some things are bound to happen. Maybe they are also the frontliners and the ones in charge of dungeon material management? Oh, that's right. The things that the government buys also pass through here at least once. Then this security makes sense. Haru. As we chat while we walk, we found something familiar in the display window near the entrance. Boar horns. It's the result of being in the front line of dungeons. Inside was a boar horn that was probably dropped. Now we consider it weak and unusable, but it does make me feel nostalgic. It hasn't been so long since we got the boar horns, but we've been fighting more intensely lately, probably because we're always in the dungeon, but the civilians working in the front lines are still few. Well, we've only been exploring for a little over a month, so it can't be helped. I wonder how far the self-defense forces, who have been exploring the dungeon since they first appeared, how deep have they explored? Haru. If the monsters are the same, they've probably already defeated the flying dragon, right? If those people would sell a lot of dropped items on the market, we could blend in our items. Still, we can't sell them even if we have them, so we can't make any money off those. Haru: well, can't it be helped, right? Brother, look, they are selling weapons. Haru: we stop talking and look at the weapons lined up in the stall. Just in case, if we are asked about the dungeon, there would be no problem because we talked about our backstory. Oh, are you a newcomer? You're quite young. What are your weapons? Clerk. The store clerk looked and talked to us in a friendly manner. Yes, we're both newcomers. My weapon is a sword and my sister is a tonfa. I glanced at Haru, but she looked like she didn't feel like talking to him, so I told him Haru's weapon as well. Oh, your brother and sister. So a sword and a tonfa. That's quite uncommon. If you don't use the sword properly, it will bend immediately. So everyone comes to buy a new one and never buy one again. Of course, these are cheap mass-produced products. These are made by a blacksmith's apprentice, so you can get them cheaply. For that reason, the number of people who are buying these is decreasing. Clerk. The other one is a tonfa. As expected, tonfas are not handled here. Tonfas have great handling, but the reach is too short. Currently, only huge striking weapons are popular. I've heard that you can't even get status upgrades in dungeons at first, so people can't even hold a weapon. And light striking weapons are not very powerful. That's why there's an image that people who use weapons are macho. If you still want to buy one, I'll tell you where to find one. Of course, you'll have to buy the sword here, though. Clerk. While being overwhelmed by the clerk who goes on a verbal landslide, I was able to collect important information. Haru, what are you going to do? I have already decided to buy a sword, so I ask Haru for her input. Let's buy. Haru. Oh, do you want to buy one? Then, over there. It's a subsidiary of a famous sports company, Oddball, handles unusual weapons. Clerk. Unusual weapons? Yeah, you should go anyway. Then come back and buy a sword here. So, a piece of advice from an uncle. The weapons sold there are not for self-defense, but for actual combat. Please note that the market price has risen considerably from a year ago because of the demand increasing. There are times when I thought that the price was a rip-off, but they are still cheap products. Well, comparing weapon prices being cheap, my store is also offering it cheap. So go on. Clerk. Ah, sure. Thank you. I don't have a lot of money, so I think I'll buy a sword here. By the way, what is the price for something around 80 centimeters long or something like it? It's 150,000 yen, T/N, approximately 1.4k USD. Okay, come again. Clerk. Thank you, Clerk-san. I will come back later. We bowed to the clerk and left his store for Oddball. Brother. Haru. Advertisements. What is it? Haru, who has been silent for a long time, opens her mouth and talked to me. That person is probably the store manager. He said my store. Haru. Ah, that's right. But does that even make sense? Number. I just realized it. Haru. I see. When I arrived at Oddball, there was a strange sight. An overwhelming sight where various kinds of things are lined up. However, although they are for sale, none of the common items are things that everyone would want are sold here. If it's something that people with sword use, it's not a sword, but a butcher knife, a saw, or a sickle. Although the shape is similar, the thickness and center of gravity have been changed to make it easier to use in actual battles, but these were not complete weapons by any means. If the person has club, there are iron pipes, crowbars, and harezen. T/N. Harezens are fans used by characters like Temari Naruto, Kitana Mortal Kombat, Yukiko Persona, Angie Guilty Gear, etc. The iron pipe is hollow inside, but it seems to be filled with something other than metal. Gives it some weight but not too much. The crowbar was a little bigger than usual, and the harezen was made of iron and the center of gravity was closer to the edge. It was also quite huge, and it seems that you can fold it if you unlocked the blades. Of course, a tonfa was also placed here. If it's for bow, there are sets of shuriken or throwing knife, and if it's spear, there's a sasumatas. However, since it is a tool not designed for stabbing but capture, it has its two protrusions sharpened for piercing so that it can kill monsters. T/N. Shurikens are throwing stars usually used by ninjas. Sasumatas are two-pronged spears that are usually designed for capturing or immobilizing enemies. Imagine a pole with a crescent or U at the tip. In addition, There was a shelf with the word stuff written on it, and there were cards made of metal. Of course, they are all weapons. There were swords in the shape of rulers and scissors for daggers. I really want all of it, but I gave up because we would run out of money. By the way, the total amount of money we brought to get all the weapons and armor was 600,000 yen. T/N. 600k yen is approximately 5.5k USD. Excuse me, is there any other Tonfas? It has been decided that we would buy a Tonfa, so we should buy one quickly. Excuse me, is there any other Tonfa besides this one? When I talk to a female clerk, in addition to the Tonfa that is displayed, other Tonfas would be retrieved from the back. May I bring it? Oddball clerk. Just in case, we listen to her, and then I pick one up and hand it to Haru. Is there a difference in size and weight? Light. Haru. After holding both, Haru murmured, well, the young lady has strength. We made it quite heavy for the actual battles. Would you like to have a maid to order one? The price is worth it. Oddball clerk. That's impossible. We don't have much money. Yes. Why don't you ask your parents? Maybe you will be able to buy something good. Oddball clerk. The clerk looks away from me and directly talked to Haru. Wow, she has a strong business spirit. Well, Haru wouldn't do much because not only is she shy, we also have no parents. I can understand it well because we're brother and sister. After seeing Haru shook her head lightly with no expression, we decided to leave. Apparently, this clerk and Haru aren't compatible. I feel that Haru's eyes are a little cold. Then, which one do you want? Oddball clerk. Advertisements. This. Haru chose the bigger one, so I bought it. The price was 200,000 yen, T/N. 1.8k USD. Although the market price has risen, I thought it would be a total rip-off, but it didn't seem to be a mass-produced product, and it has bumps around the handle, making it easy to hold and use. Is this due to the craftsman's skill? The clerk was always talking to Haru at that time, but she seemed to give up because everything she said was ignored. Here you go. Excuse me. Next person please. Oddball clerk. As soon as we are done at the checkout counter, the next person is called and we are smoothly kicked out. Well, it's fine. We'll head back to the weapon shop. Manager. We bought one safely. We bought a Tonfa and went back to the store, then we greeted the clerk. Well, actually the store manager. Oh, how did you know I was the store manager? Clerk equals greater than manager. My sister guessed it. So, I will buy the sword as planned. What do you have here? Well, your sister is amazing. Well, you want something 80 centimeters long, right? There are 5 in that range. The highest is 970,000 yen, T/N, 8.8k USD, and the cheapest is 150,000 yen. Here they are. Manager. The store manager gave me 5 swords. The designs are a little different, but their lengths are about the same. What's the difference and what's with the price difference? Since it is a sword, I don't think the materials will change much. It must have been because of the person who made it and their level of mastery. To be honest, an amateur like me doesn't know why. Rest assured that there are no issues with the blades. Manager. I try everyone with a few trial swings, but I feel that all them fit firmly in my hand and all them have a solid balance. It's a shame I don't have a lot of money. Then, let's do this. I decided on the sword priced at 150,000 yen. Either way, when I get home, I'll remodel it, so there's going to be no issue. I thought as I handled it, but it was still too soft and light for me to use. If I use it in a dungeon, it will break immediately even if I properly use it. The claws of the monsters in the forest are harder than steel. Yeah. Then the price is 165,000 yen including tax. Sign here because this is a document for the transfer of the weapon's ownership. The blade would be useless without this. Manager. When I read the documents from beginning to end before signing them, then I sensed that the entrance to the dungeon market was noisy. What is going on there? I was a little worried, so I asked the store manager. Today, they mentioned that the 5 frontline parties would be on TV. You want to go see them? Okay, I've checked the paperwork. Now the official sword owner is you. Manager. I received the sword and got it in a box for the time being, so I'll hold on to it. Haru. Do you want to watch it? Yeah, I want to observe the strongest civilians. Haru. Got it. Whoa. As the door of the dungeon market opens, the noise spreads from all directions. It looks like they're here. So we went to see the so-called strongest party in Japan. Chapter 26. When we headed to the place where the 5 parties were, we found that there was already a crowd of people there, so many that we couldn't see the back. This is a place where ordinary people are not allowed. How could so many people gather here even in such a condition? The title of strongest is amazing. The cameras seemed to be rolling as we entered the dungeon market, and we could hear the voices, though they were small. At the same time, you can see how much stronger they are than the people around them. How are they? Haru's skill is not enough to grasp the strength of the enemy, so she asks me. From the looks of it, I'd say they're all around level 20. I wonder if they have a lot of combat experience. How about this? Look at those people closely. Haru, what do you mean? I feel something flowing from Haru's hand. I've always felt that something. It is obviously magic power. The magic power that leaks from Haru spreads to the surroundings in a low concentration without changing its density. It passes through the 20 people in the 5 parties, and nothing happens. No, one person moved. How was it? Haru, I don't know who it was, but one of them reacted. Maybe it's some kind of magic skill. One of the women in the group, her name is Yamato Nadeshiko, or Grapevine Association. Which one? Haru. Ah, the Grapevine Association. The one with the beautiful women. Then it's no big deal. Haru, I don't know if it's a good idea to make decisions based on that, but it's not a great way to measure risk. By the way, you can use magic outside the dungeon? I can't use magic. However, as soon as I got out of the dungeon while being conscious of the magic inside my body, I could move my magic outside. Haru, I can't do that. I can't do it. I don't know what magic is in my body. It's just something that feels normal, you know? Haru, well, that's fine for now. As Haru started walking with her back to the crowd, I followed her. The woman who reacted as if she had noticed the magical power earlier probably thought it was just in her mind. Everything seems to be normal. If there's a next time, I wonder if she'll realize the true nature of her discomfort then. We have already lost our interest in them for not noticing the magic. Their sense of magic is probably equal to or less than ours. The crowd begins to move towards the back, where there are no stores, as if the location of the filming is moving. I looked at them from the side and saw a young man talking into a microphone in the distance. No, his face looks like that of a boy. He seems older than me, but with an innocent look on his face that everyone around him loves and will grow to love. The other person didn't even seem to notice me. That's true. From their point of view, I'm just another onlooker. He's the hero, huh? Somehow I murmured such words. Hey, I'm going to buy some armor, because they won't let me in the dungeon without it. Oh, that's right. I want a jacket that can be stored easily for the time being. Haru, we soon forgot about them and went shopping for things. Now, where are the parts of the body that absolutely must have armor to protect them when entering a dungeon? Legs, chest, head. Legs, chest, and head, to prevent injuries to vital points and means of escape. Haru, well, I guess you're right. But what about a helmet for something as dreamlike as exploring a dungeon? We came to a store that sold protective gear, and there were many helmets lined up in front of us. There is a wide variety of helmets, from plain ones to ones that scream safety first. I don't like these. Haru is really critical. Oh, this time a young people came. How about a helmet? Would you like to buy one? Clerk. As we looked at the helmets, a clerk came out from inside the store. Isn't there anything else? I didn't want to explore the Tokyo dungeon wearing this helmet, so I put my trust in him and asked. Wow, of course, there is. The price will be higher. Come on, your sister too. Clerk. The excited shopkeeper smiled and went back inside the store. Well then, do you want to enter, Haru? Yes. Haru was puzzled by the shopkeeper's personality, but she still followed along. Advertisements. How tall are you two? Clerk. 172 centimeters. 158 centimeters. Haru. Okay, here you go. Clerk. As soon as I entered the store, the clerk asked me how tall I was, and as soon as I answered, 2 pieces of clothing came out. Both black, and look like hoodies. It's a hooded jacket made of a stab-proof material. The rest of the jacket is made of sturdy material, and it's thin and loose, so you can wear it over your gear without any problems. It's a popular item here. Clerk. The clerk says it's a popular item, but I'm pretty sure that's just because people don't want to wear helmets. I tried on the hoodie, and it was indeed thin and loose except for the hood, so I could wear it over my clothes. But it is also a little short. I'm not sure if you've noticed. The hem is shortened so as not to interfere with the use of weapons. It's also very popular. There's also pockets on the inside. Clerk. I thought about it as I listened to the shopkeeper. To be honest, I don't care if the hoodie is loose or thin. Hey, why don't we buy one in a larger size and remodel it? Haru. Oh, that's fine. I sneakily consulted with Haru while the clerk was still talking, so as not to be overheard. So we decided on a plan. Have you decided? Clerk. Yes. Do you have one with a double layer of fabric on the inside and outside? Oh, you've got a good point there, big brother. That's right. It's true that being thin and light is an advantage when fighting, but I have noticed that it is also difficult to use. First of all, it's so thin that if there's a weapon on it, it'll cut through in a flash, revealing the clothes inside. Also, you can't store the weapon inside the clothes. It would be a dream to open the front of my coat and find a knife inside. That's why we developed a hoodie with slightly stiff leather inside. This parka has a Velcro strap instead of a zipper to make it easier to open. The whole thing is also made of stab-proof material. Clerk. Then I'll buy that one, the one with a double-layered structure and only the hood is stab-proof. Good choice. It's 50,000 yen each. Clerk. It's expensive, as expected. While lamenting the price of the clothes, I bought the hoodies and headed for the next store. Apparently, the same company runs two stores, one for the top half and one for the bottom half. Again, I wondered. But since there were no strange clerks after that, we were able to complete our shopping easily. The pants were the stab-proof fabric that was sewn into the joints of existing clothes. The breastplates were 40,000 yen each, and the 600,000 yen I had brought with me was almost gone. Well, it's time to go home. Yeah. Next time let's head to the Tokyo dungeon next time, okay? Haru. Oh, the transportation costs. I think I'll just come back tomorrow and leave behind a record of my entry into the dungeon. When we get back, we'll hunt for a minotaur and have meat for dinner. Yeah, that's right. I'm tired because there are so many people today. Haru. The majority of the people in the dungeon market are still onlookers to the TV and are clustered in one place, so the entrance to the dungeon market is fairly empty and we can get out quickly. Then, start remodeling using magic, Haru declared as soon as we got home. The excitement is slightly different from usual, but I'll leave it at that. I'll start with the weapons. For now, they're all too light and too weak. I'm sure the Earth's metal is too weak, regardless of the blacksmith's skill. In other words, metals that are obtained from ordinary ores outside the dungeon have no difference in hardness even inside the dungeon. Not surprisingly, although there would be no problem using it on the first floor, it will be easily destroyed by the Black Wolf and treated like it's nothing by Minotaur's advertisements. On the other hand, mysterious metals are taken in the dungeon and those with metallic properties such as horns are just like ordinary hard metals outside the dungeon, but by bringing them into the dungeon, it increases in strength and flexibility. That's why you can't use ordinary weapons in the dungeon. First of all, I will change the material through alchemy. The materials are collected in large quantities by forcing a stampede in the forest. We have everything from metal to cloth. The first thing to use for the metal is a steel battle axe dropped by a minotaur. Since there are two in total, this will be used for our two weapons. Alchemy skill is a skill to reform another thing with a substance with similar properties. So if it is made with metal, it can be transmuted with a different metal. If it is cloth, it can be transmuted with a different cloth. It is important to note, however, that the material used for transmuting the weapon will disappear. It doesn't matter what the volume ratio is between before and after the transmutation. Even if you transmute the metal of a battle axe to a sewing needle, the battle axe will disappear. It is similar to games with material synthesis. Whatever you use for synthesis will be used up. Well, that's why I'm going to do it right away. The steel battle axe is steel, but it is not like steel outside the dungeon. I'm sure it's similar to the steel that exists on Earth, but it contains magical properties. That's why it can be analyzed. Well, alchemy. When I transmuted the metal from the battle axe to the tonfa, I felt something strange and stopped. It's not like I'm working with my hands, because I'm just using my skills. The metal was transmuted from the battle axe, which turned into mist and disappeared. But what is this discomfort? Haru, I feel that something other than magical power was flowing from the axe to Tunfa. Try to analyze it. Okay. Haru stares at Tunfa and raises his face. This might be worse than I thought, especially if it's not a Tunfa. Here's the paper. Oh, here are the analysis results. Haru gives me a piece of paper with the analysis results. Steel Tunfa, skill, strong / So, did you move the skill? I'm not sure how you can cut with a Tunfa. Haru, I will try it on the sword for the time being. Haru hurriedly told me to transmute the metal from the battle axe to my sword. Then, something different was flowing like from before. It's a success. Steel sword, skill, strong / Haru. I was able to transfer the skill properly to the sword. By the way, what kind of skill is strong / Wait a minute. Cool down. Haru. The two of us waited idly for the time to pass. But 1 minute was sooner than expected and the result was revealed. Strong / type, skill. Cool time, 10s. Correction to / I'm not sure what the point of this is, even if it's on Tunfa. I'm not sure how much time I have left, so let's not experiment too much. We don't have a lot of time, so let's experiment in moderation. That's right. Then let's test our skills. Then let's go get some good meat. Haru, even though we had just bought a weapon today, we were feeling great and went into our dungeon in the basement. By the way, we didn't do some sparring, but we did some warm-up exercises. Chapter 27. Siblings try out new weapons and skills. So, we're in the dungeon, but I'm not sure how to use it. Haru, by the way, did we get a new skill card in the battle with the Earth Dragon? Yeah, we did. We also got 2 cards each from the small fries in the forest. I said I'd look into it later, but I never did. I'll take a look. I'll start. Haru. After transferring from the transition room to the entrance of the 15th lair, Haru uses her skill and tells me the information verbally since there is no paper. Name, Haruka. Proficiency, magic, craft. Magic attribute, Fisher. Explosion, electric. Level, 52. Strength, 60. Magic capacity, 123. Skill, analysis. Magic, bomb, time bomb, impact, number, plasma, Fisher, separation, barrier. Passive, magic recovery, detection, crafting, magic manipulation. Oh, your level has risen quite a bit. What's new is separation, barrier, and magic manipulation. Maybe the reason Haru was manipulating magic outside had something to do with magic manipulation. Then the magic after that? I can imagine barrier, but I don't know what separation is. Perhaps separation is magic under there. Fisher, attribute. That's right. I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out soon. Haru turned to me, so I gave her permission to eliminate the resistance. If I don't do this, I will reject the analysis. Name, Tuka. Proficiency, enchant/alchemy. Magic attribute, none. Curse. Level, 52. Strength, 73. Magic capacity, 109. Skill, stealth/positioning. Magic, speed, power, guard, bind, chain, slow, loss. Passive, perception, acceleration, alchemy. I listen to Haru read out the results of her analysis and see what skills I've gained. My new skills are positioning, slow, and loss. I have no idea what the effect of the others except slow. Is this your first debuff? Haru. Come to think of it, yes. And then there's the swords, strong / I removed the sword from the sheath and lightly swung it. Nothing. Strong / I tried swinging it while chanting again, but nothing happened. Speaking of other things I haven't tried, usually, I use skills somehow because the activation method is not chanting. Magical power? Even if I can't control it as precisely as Haru, it's easy enough to send it somewhere. I make my magical power flow through my hand and toward the sword. I then think using strong / correction on / As soon as I swung it towards the sky, the sword glowed red and I heard another cutting sound that followed the sound of the sword cutting through the air. Perhaps this was the correction. It's a success. Then, can we go now? Haru. Yeah, we should probably go. For now, let's experiment with skills and magic without killing them right away. Okay. Haru touched the door and it opened automatically. There is a minotaur sitting on the rock inside. Will it sit there all the time until we come in? It's possible that the monster was created when we touched the door. Oh, it started moving. Separation. She thrust out the tunfa at the minotaur that reached for its weapon and she then casts magic. Then something happened to the hand stretched out by the minotaur. No, magic happened. Then a black light and hits the minotaur's hand. That's what think I saw. Advertisements. Growl. Minotaur. Suddenly, it stopped reaching for its weapon and held the hand that was hit by the magic. You can see the hand that was hit by the magic for a moment through a gap in the held hand. Indeed, this would certainly be a separation. The surface of the minotaur's arm became shriveled. With this, the skin looked like it was about to be peeled off. Is it like shaving off the vitality of the area hit? How about positioning? What is this? Haru. This magic is quite strong. This time, the minotaur firmly picks up the weapon with its other arm, lifts it above its head, and swings it down. The sword glowed, and a torrent of power flies from as it did from before. At that time, the sword stopped being a threat. Barrier. Oh, if you use your skills while using magic manipulation, you can change the shape of the barrier. The magical barrier created by Haru was facing diagonally toward the minotaur. The movement of the minotaur was easily blocked. I'm done. Next his brother. Haru. Okay, slow, loss. I cast 2 spells on the minotaur and it moves in a charging stance. Then the body of the minotaur glowed and magic was applied. In the first place, there are many inconveniences in using enchantment spells on the opponent. The range is shorter than attack magic. The distance between me and the minotaur is still about 10 meters, and normally my magic would not reach. By using positioning, I can activate it at long distances. However, the power is reduced. The footsteps of the minotaur as it approached is heavy, because that is the effect of slow and loss. Oh, it's for loss of attack power. I see. The axe swung down towards me doesn't have strength behind it. It's not just the effect of slow. Even if they are slowed, the power generated by their status will still give them a decent amount of power even if they swing it slowly. If so, the effect of loss is a decrease in attack power, or it disperses it. Perhaps that is the reason for the loss of the attack power. Well, that's about it. Both of us had finished experimenting with our new magic and skills, so we moved on to the last experiment. I dodged the axe swung by the minotaur by shifting my body a little, and I put my hand on the sword and released magic power. This is your end. It was an unbelievable sight. I swung the sword at the minotaur's neck, but it stopped moving halfway up the neck, and then, with correction activating, the head was suddenly lopped off. With the correction, it produced twice the attack power. Haru. Maybe when I slash it, there is no correction. It's actually repeating the slash twice at the same place at almost the same time. By the way, we forgot about 2 things. I didn't use my tunfa. We also didn't use magic circles with the magic, so the magic is weak. Haru. Oh, well, that's for tomorrow. Let's experiment with the magic circle tomorrow morning. It can't be helped. Haru. Hearing Haru's reluctant voice, we pick up the dropped item and put it in the item pouch. Of course, I took the meat. I was in a good mood, but Haru, who was a little sullen, returned home in a hurry. Brother, alchemy, for the clothes and shoes. Haru. Advertisements. That was what Haru said shortly after returning. Well, that's fine. She said that there would be no problem if the food is delayed by a few minutes, so I started using alchemy. First of all, clothes and trousers. We didn't buy anything else new, so I thought I'd use the mid-level wolf fur we got in the forest. The black wolf is probably stronger than the mid-level wolf. Do you think so? It's true that the black wolf has a higher attack power and a harder skin. Haru. Well, I guess we'll deal with the clothes tomorrow. Shall we have dinner and go to bed? Haru. Yeah. Yawn. I am tired from moving through the crowds today. Haru also yawns and answered, it can't be helped. I wanted to eat minotaur beef to heal my tiredness, but sleep seems to be better. I cut the minotaur beef into small blocks and lightly fry it. After eating it, I went for a shorter run than usual and went to sleep. And the next day, 50 animals, let's go. They were diligently hunting for black wolves. The black wolf is the boss of the 10th level, and the hero party hasn't even been able to see it yet. I'm going. I'll be back. And it's done. It was no longer an enemy for us who can easily defeat the Minotaur on the 15th floor. We don't even have to use magic anymore. As soon as the door started to open, Haru crossed the door like a cat, rushing straight into the Black Wolf, and she accelerated further just before closing near the Black Wolf. Haru then strikes the Black Wolf's legs, chest, and then destroys its skull. It's a completely different level of violence. However, thanks to this, each battle is over in about 10 seconds. Despite the fact that we've been going around for a while now, it's only been a little over an hour since we entered the dungeon. Once again, we hopped on the magic circle to return to the 10th level entrance and open the door. I went in first and proceeded straight to the Black Wolf, similar to Haru, but the Black Wolf was slow to react. My ability to avoid being noticed has grown considerably. I stopped under the face of the Black Wolf, grasped the handle of the sword tightly, and lightly jumped up, twisting my body as I leapt and drew the sword in the same way as a drawing cut. T/N. Think about the attacks a lot of samurais in anime do. They usually leap forward then slash as they draw their sword. Ike in Smash Bros. And Zero in Mega Man X games use this move. I think Google Sensei has more examples for this. The Black Wolf's neck is easily sliced, and although the neck has not completely fallen off due to its thickness, the blood vessels and bones are cut off. It was so quick it instantly turned into mist. Drops are normal. Let's go for the next one. This is how we continue our outrageous hunt for the Black Wolf. Chapter 28. We've been hunting Black Wolves ever since, and we're currently in the forest. To be honest, we got bored. What's the fun in just hunting Black Wolves for a couple of hours, when you can kill them in less than 5 seconds instead of 10? There was nothing wrong with me physically, but I was mentally exhausted, so we took a break in the room after we left the boss room for about an hour. And then we started running towards the forest seemingly randomly. It would have taken us a while to explore, but we already knew the shortest route. In addition, the status we gained in the dungeon gave us extraordinary physical abilities. We took a quick detour, killed the Minotaur instantly, and came straight to the forest. And then, impact, decouple. Haru. 10 balls of light spun around and scattered in all directions. Haru's current weapon does not have a magic circle engraved on it, so she uses a card with a magic circle engraved on it that she made earlier. Each explosion knocks down trees and causes more damage. The trees in this forest burn, but for some reason, they don't spread, so there is no need to worry about forest fires. Yes, what we are doing now is a man-made stampede of some sort. There are no more trees around us, and the monsters that reacted to the sound are gathering together and closing in on us. I look up, but Rimdabma is apathetic to what's happening. I guess I'll be on my way then. Yeah, I will be defeating them from here. Haru. I kick the ground and head towards the monster's reaction. There are no strong enemies like the Earth Dragon from last time. They're all small fry, and you can slay one of them in less than a second. It's probably because I've slain so many Black Wolves that my sword path doesn't bend even when I'm slashing at high speed. But even so, the number of monsters increased more than they decreased. I can't catch up, I guess. Speed, power, chain, slow. The combination of speed and power physically enhanced me, and chain makes the effect of slow effect over a wide area. It's not an attack, it's just magic that lowers the speed of the opponents, but it can spread several times farther than normal. As it is, I plunge into the enemy group, take on, and eradicated a much larger number of monsters than before. Gradually, the number of monsters dwindled. Hey, something's coming. Haru. I heard Haru's voice, so I returned to Haru. I felt a strong presence on the way. It is an enemy that seems to be weaker than the Earth Dragon but stronger than the Minotaur. Another reason we came here was that we were tired of Black Wolves and wanted to fight a large number of enemies. We also want to fight stronger enemies. Occasionally, monsters with strengths that do not normally appear show up. We call these monsters rare monsters, and the only ones that seemed for us are the strongest were the Golden Skeleton and the Earth Dragon. But in reality, we have fought a lot more rare monsters. However, they weren't strong enough to mention. Rare monsters vary greatly in fighting power from individual to individual, and the Earth Dragon, which had twice the fighting power of the Minotaur, that was the boss of the previous layer, can be considered an overwhelming force in that layer. while there were rare monsters that had only the fighting power of small fry. Weak rare monsters are not a very good source of quality drop items, but if they become strong to some extent, they may drop skill cards. But this time, Wise Wolf, fighting power 187, slightly stronger? Haru, I think we'll just kill this one and be done with it for today. When I put the sword back in the scabbard, I tilt it a little vertically so that it doesn't get in the way of the battle. Then Haru puts her right hand forward and lets the magical power flow through the ring. I'm going to go with my magic. Impact. Haru also slams her treasure, Morning Star, on the ground. Speed. I buffed myself and used stealth, and approached the Wise Wolf who is charging towards us. The Wise Wolf moved differently, probably because of it being wise. It shifts a little to the side and avoids the trajectory where their impact heads towards. However, half-hearted wisdom makes you no different from a sitting duck. I wield my scythe while using stealth to erase my presence near the area where the Wise Wolf dodged. I cut off one of its legs and used bind to nail it on the spot. I keep my distance from the Wise Wolf while using the scythe as a shield. Not to avoid the Wise Wolf's attack, but to avoid Haru's follow-up. The magic that Haru unleashed drew a gentle curve in the middle and blew the Wise Wolf away. It's not enough to kill it, but if it loses one of its legs and is covered in injuries, it's as good as dead. In addition, the accuracy of the redirected ball has been improved. Well, it's easier to add rotation using magic manipulation, then change the speed at which the magic flies. Haru. As I observe, Haru bends her magic by adding a spin as she manipulates her own magic power. Although magic is just a small mass of magical power, it still possesses air resistance. And in case you're wondering, the speed of magic is well over 200 kilometers. It's just that the increase in status makes it seem slower than it is. I walked up to the Wise Wolf, who stood unsteadily, and used the scythe as a feint to send his head flying. It was unlikely that he would be able to resist without fainting, but skills and magic can be used to reverse a predicament. There was no need to neglect the possibility that the enemy might use skills or magic. The drop is a dagger. Oh, it has skills. It's a counterattack. I'll check it out when I get back. Haru. Oh, that's good. For some reason, Haru stopped choosing daggers. Mew. Because the blades aren't very responsive. I feel like I should knock them down with a blunt weapon. Haru. Oh, I see. I felt like I had seen a glimpse of a horrifying side of my sister. Advertisements. And now I'm cooking. After defeating the Wise Wolf and returning home, we decided to have dinner before checking the results. Oh, this is great. Incidentally, Haru was in the back of the room analyzing something unusual that she had picked up today. It all started when Haru started to analyze some random items in the jar as a way to pass the time, and she happened to discover that some nondescript items had skills attached to them. Of course, the skills were not valuable, but rather trivial things like anti-slip. It was at this point that Haru became motivated to find some useful skills, and while killing time, she started analyzing the unusual ones in succession. The most unusual skill she found so far was a skill called Medicinal Effect, which increases the potency of medicines. The effect is to strengthen the effect of the medicine. However, for some reason, the above-ground medicines don't seem to work in the dungeon, and potions were not included as medicine. In other words, it was useless. Other than that, it would be a skill called Luminescence, with a duration of 1 hour. Once you use it, it will continue to glow for an hour. But since there is no way to turn off the light, the only way to turn it off is to wait for the hour to pass. And perhaps because it is a magical light, the glow will penetrate even if it is covered with some object. First of all, it can only be used in dungeons. But there are no dark places in dungeons. Well, after all, it's a garbage skill. By the way, the skill I found was transferred to a metal plate I made by alchemy. Since metal processing is difficult, I used the easy-to-process and soft boar horns from the 6th layer to make small plates and then used alchemy to turn them into strong metal. Haru has engraved the name of the skill on the plate so that we can see which skill is attached to it without analyzing it. Haru, food is ready. Brother, please also transfer this skill that deodorizes. Haru. Oh, I understand. As usual, Haru was still collecting seemingly meaningless skills. T/N clearly doesn't read enough web novels. So what kind of skill was counterattack? We talked about dungeons over dinner as usual. Today, of course, it was the skill attached to the dagger. Yes, it had a duration of 0.5 seconds, unlike the strong slash from last time. Haru, duration is the time when the skill is active, which is usual for a garbage skill. Yeah, and the cool time is 1 second. It's short, but it's double the duration. Haru, you can use it multiple times in a fight, but you can't keep using it. The effect is that when a physical attack lands, it will send back a counterattack in proportion to the strength of the attack but negating the damage. Thank you for the meal. Haru, what do you mean, thank you for the meal? The explanation of the skill was, as usual, incomprehensible, and I couldn't understand it. Brother insisted that I should never enter a dungeon alone, so I did my best to analyze it. Haru, thank you. So? And, well, okay. The definition of an attack here is something that impairs you when it hits you, and if it doesn't damage you, it's called fatigue. Haru, what is that? If the opponent's physical attack is received by this dagger when the skill is active, the opponent will get tired in proportion to the strength of the attack. Haru, oh, it's definitely strong, so why didn't it use it? Advertisements. Because I killed the wise wolf without it preventing the attack even once. By the way, the name of the weapon is Wise Wolf's Dagger. Haru, so it's not truly a wise wolf. Well then, shall we continue with yesterday's alchemy? Yeah, I'm ready. If I look beyond Haru's line of sight, I will find the armor we bought yesterday and the same number of black wolf furs. The black wolf we hunted was a lot, but it seems that the number of materials was just enough. We decided to start with the hoodie, so we cut off the hood. Then I used alchemy for the lining and other parts of the hoodie, and then Haru stitched the hoodie and hood together, which had become so strong that no needle could penetrate it unless she used her craft skill. Of course, the thread she uses is from a small fries drop item, which I used alchemy along with the black wolf's fur to make it stronger. The reason for doing such a troublesome task is quite simple. When it comes to stab-proofing, modern stab-proof fibers are stronger than black wolf's fur. That's all. No matter how strong the black wolf's fur is, it can still be pierced by iron if you hit it with all your might. However, if you're in a dungeon and your status has increased, you can easily pierce it anyway, or something like that. Next, I strengthened the pants and clothes we've been using for exploration by using alchemy. I didn't strengthen the underwear because it becomes a little stiff and difficult to Washington. However, I also used alchemy on some of the socks for good measure. The breastplate had metal some in it, so I used black wolf fur for the outside. The iron inside was strengthened with black wolf iron made from the black wolf fang. Finally, the shoes. If I only used the fur, only the cloth part was replaced by alchemy, so I also used the black wolf iron, so the few metallic parts were also strengthened. Okay, it's done. Would you like to go to Tokyo tomorrow? Yeah, I'm ready. Haru, we ended the day with more than enough preparation to enter a dungeon that would be much weaker. Oh no, brother, we forgot to buy gloves. Haru, yes, that's right. Well, we didn't have enough money to buy them even if we had remembered. After all, we have no money. Chapter 29. We woke up earlier than usual and are getting ready to go to the dungeon in Tokyo. Haru is working on engraving the magic circle on our weapons, and I'm checking what we need to bring with us. I'll bring an item pouch with me, but I can't use it in public. The item pouch was attached to the top of my underwear like a secret pouch so that it would not come off. I took out all the things we didn't need in the item pouch and packed the things we did need. First, potions. The machete and iron pipe that we had used before were also spare weapons, and plates with garbage skills. There was no use for them at the moment, but if we used them with something else, there was a possibility that they could be useful. At any rate, the trouble with skills is that they usually only affect the thing they are attached to upon activation. For example, there, deodorize, skill I found yesterday. I am the one who triggers the skill, but it is the object to which the skill is attached that actually activates the skill. As a result, only the object to which the skill is attached, the plate engraved with the word deodorize, will be deodorized. And like this, there is no skill that can be used by itself among the garbage skills. Still, though, just in case, it doesn't matter if we have all of them because they don't weigh much. Okay, I'm done. Haru. The sound of metal grinding in the basement stopped, and I heard Haru report that she was finished. Well, let's finish up and get going. The finishing touches are usually applied using alchemy. I thought I'd put some trash skills on Haru's Tanfa for good measure. And since there are a lot of trash skills, we don't have to worry about the number. For Haru's Tanfa, I used alchemy to transfer the strong slash to a card, and from another card, I transferred shock absorption to the Tanfa. It takes a little more time, but yesterday I was able to move the skill by itself. When I do that, the substance doesn't change, and the material for the alchemy is not consumed. The skill is the only one used. So, shock absorption. It absorbs most of the impact that is applied, but of course, the impact that is absorbed and has no place to escape is fully contained within the object that has the skill. In other words, it absorbs shocks that should have escaped to the surrounding area, resulting in taking in an abnormal amount of force during attacks. If the skill were to be applied to a piece of armor, it would be blown off in one shot. In fact, when I tried it once with a low-rank wolf's fur, it fell apart with a single blow, and the skills I had given it were lost. So, this is the skill for a tough metal Tanfa. Then, let's go. Yup. Haru. We put on our backpacks. Haru puts her weapon in her case and puts it in her backpack. I wrapped the scabbard with a piece of string to keep it in place, then wrapped a piece of cloth around it and tied it to the backpack. Then we rode our bicycles to the nearest station and took the train to the nearest station of the Tokyo Dungeon. There are a lot of people. Haru. I thought there would be fewer people since it was a weekday. There are a lot of people with weapons. A carry bag, a golf bag, a guitar case, etc. I want one. Haru. Maybe we'll buy one when we have enough money. While talking about such things, we entered the guild and not the dungeon dam. The reason was simple. Please give me a permit to carry a weapon. It was to apply for a weapon. In order to enter a dungeon, you have to carry a weapon, so you have to apply for a permit to carry your own weapon. I had a sword and 6 knives. Haru applied for 2 tanfas and a knife. We don't have to give any details about our weapons, as it would be personal information and show our individual abilities. Yes, sir. I've confirmed it. If you use any weapons other than these in the dungeon, please be aware that you will be subject to questioning. Receptionist. Thank you very much. I bailed out to the receptionist and started to enter the dungeon dam, but then I stopped. Haru. What's that? Some kind of skill. I think it's the kind of skill that can be used outside the dungeon. Haru. At the entrance to the dungeon dam, there was a thin layer of magic swirling around. Only Haru, who has a passive, magic manipulation, can do such a thing without using any skill. In other words, that is the magical power of the skill, and it means that there is a possibility it is something similar to analysis. So, I don't think it's necessary for the other party's consent like my analysis to take effect, regardless of anyone. Haru. Can you shoot magical power from here and hinder it? I think I can do it, but I'll definitely look suspicious. Oh, it stopped. Haru. The skill suddenly stops while we were talking, not able to proceed. I wondered why it stopped for a moment, and I hurriedly looked at the clock. Just 1 minute, staring at the second hand. Magical power began to flow again. I don't know the active time, but I know that the cool time is 1 minute. In other words, if I entered at that time, nothing would happen to me. We slipped into the dungeon dam at the moment when the next skill was not in effect. We finished the procedures to enter the dungeon during the 1 minute when the skill was supposed to be interrupted. It only takes about 10 seconds to confirm your identity, though. Then we'll go to the locker room to get our gear and put our things in the lockers. I was a little worried about Haru, but I quickly went to the changing room. Then I take a look at the surroundings. This seems safe enough. There were quite a few security guards. I go into the changing room and put on my gear, which is basically what I wore when I came here, a breastplate and a hoodie. I untied the cloth and string wrapped around my sword and attached the sword to my waist with a belt. The hoodie had lost its Velcro effect when I used alchemy, so I sewed a strong magnet to fasten it to the front. On the back of the hoodie is a pocket where I keep 2 knives, one on each side, for throwing or reserve use. I kept 1 black wolf dagger and 1 wise wolf dagger on my waist. I finished my preparations, grabbed my stuff, and went outside to find Haru standing in front of my locker. It seems that no one is trying to pick up girls this time. Well, Everyone is armed, and there are quite a few guards, so any guy who tries to pick up people here are either is very courageous or just foolish. Brother, you're here. It seems that lockers are rented, so let's use one together. Haru. Oh, I understand. I put mine and Haru's belongings in a decent-sized locker and took the key. What about the money? I forpaid it. You'll have to reimburse it when we get home. Haru. Okay, then let's go. Yup. Haru. Before entering the dungeon, I looked around and saw a lot of people wearing helmets and hoodies. This way, we won't stand out too much. I looked at the map of the first and second levels that had been left at the reception desk and confirmed that Haru had memorized the shortest distance to the third level and the surrounding area, and then we entered the dungeon. I put on my hood, hiding my face to the most obscured natural degree. Haru, take a route that is close to the shortest route, but not quite, to the third layer. From there, we'll go incognito. Okay, follow me. Haru. I followed Haru as she walked, but there were too many people around. It's like we're passing people every 10 meters or so. There's a lot of people around us with Western swords, but we also see a few katanas here and there. I guess there are many people who use swords in the early levels. The fastest people who started exploring in April apparently started exploring the 4th level yesterday, and from the 3rd level on, you rarely see people, and you can find a lot of monsters that haven't been killed yet. From the 3rd level on, we rarely saw people and found many monsters that hadn't been killed yet. But before that, most of them had been killed by someone and we couldn't find any alive. Either way, the monsters could be defeated without taking out our weapons. But since we had to worry about being noticed, we had to move slowly and deliberately, catching the enemy's movements, slashing at them by missing their vital points, and slashing them several times before defeating them. However, this was quite stressful. That's why I would sometimes kill them instantly while using my skills, making sure that no one was around. In addition, when I moved to the lower levels, I did so when there were no or few people around. So, I was running around the dungeon at my normal speed, trying to avoid meeting other explorers by keeping track of the surroundings and perceiving them. Even when we turned, we kicked the wall without slowing down, so there was no way those monsters could handle us. We run through 3 levels without even killing a monster. Brother, a few reactions disappeared in the distance. They didn't seem to be fighting, so they probably went to the lower level. Haru. Oh, yeah, then we should too. Yeah, this way. Haru. Even though Haru's detection can't probe the structure of the dungeon, it can probe people's actions. And since you cannot interfere between the levels in the dungeon, if a person does not respond without fighting, it means that they have moved between levels. Even though we ran while avoiding people, we reached the stairs to the 4th level in no time. It was risky to be seen even after the 4th level. That's why it's necessary to go without being seen. Just, what should I do with that? You can't get out of it, right? There was a party sitting at the bottom of the stairs. I was on the lookout, so I didn't get spotted, but I was in a hurry because I was at the point where the level changes, so our detection and perception weren't responding. Hey, there's a monster a little further away. Can't you attack it? Haru. No, how could I? You mean use positioning? Yeah, in the same way when I used analysis on Rimdabma. Haru. When Haru grabs my hand, the sight that Haru receives through her senses flows into my head. She uses detection, and makes it easier for me to see the monster clearly. I found it. Loss. There were 4 goblins, and there was no such thing as magic resistance for enemies on this level. You can use any kind of magic you want, and it will have the maximum effect. There, loss I had used was fully applied to all of them, and the goblins noticed us. The goblins noticed me. Or perhaps I should say that they noticed some kind of interference from our direction, since I don't think they were actually able to fully detect us. I can see through Haru's detection that the goblins are running straight towards here. Hey, you guys. 3 goblins have arrived. Get ready. Leader. Are there explorers? With the voice of the man who seemed to be the leader, the 3 of them spread out with their weapons at the ready, and then the battle begins. These guys have weak attacks. Explorer. It's our responsibility. Let's do it quickly. Leader. The men were so excited to kill the goblins that they didn't notice the 2 shadows that passed by them at high speeds. There are no people on the 4th level, as expected. Haru. It's been 9 days since it opened to the public. They can't dive all the time like us, So if they go to the 4th level, they must be first class, and if they go to the 3rd level, they must be veterans. That's right. Well, there are no people within the scope of detection, and the monster's searching ability is too weak. But there are no stairs. Haru. As we ran through the 4th level, we looked for the stairs to the 5th level. We weren't too fatigued, but there was a lot of space on the 4th level, and it was getting difficult to find the entrance to the next floor. We'll just have to be patient. It's been about 30 minutes since I came to this level. Ha. That's right. Ha. Haru. We both let out a sigh. There were no stairs. Haru remembers and leads the way, so we shouldn't go down the same way and fail. After all, the floor is too wide. At least it's bigger than the dungeon in our house. Oh. Haru. After running for another 30 minutes, I suddenly found a staircase next to it. You finally found it? Yep. Let's go to subdue the 5th level boss for the time being. Haru. Yeah, let's not just kill it, let's wait and see. Okay. Haru. I changed my weapon to my dagger, and Haru held her Tunfu and we went across the door. Chapter 30. Gajur. Hobgoblin. As soon as we enter the room, a goblin with a body size of about 2 meters screams in an unpleasant racket. Hobgoblin. When I saw the letters that came to my mind, I suddenly smiled. How nostalgic. Haru. Yeah, back then, as far as I'm concerned, attacks didn't work and I was freaked out by this. And it's been a long time since I've had a name pop into my head. The name of the boss is only displayed when you first see him. So this is the second time we've seen the hobgoblin in our mind. I saw a hobgoblin swinging his sword around as it approached me, and I just smacked the wise wolf's dagger to it. Gugat. Hobgoblin. The goblin's movement stopped with that one movement, and with a little effort, the goblin was flung backward. Hey, hobgoblin's fighting power is 45. Haru. Well, that's about it. Our current fighting power is in the latter half of 180. This happened because there is a difference in our stats by 4 times. If you think about it, the ratio of this difference is smaller than the difference between us and Rimdabma. The power of Rimdabma is a little over 1000. It was 5 to 6 times more than we are now. We can't win, because there is more difference between us and the hobgoblin. With that in mind, I flicked the hobgoblin's sword with my knife. Of course, the counterattack skill is used there, and it steadily reduces its strength. Already, Hobgoblin's body was swaying, and its hand holding the sword was trembling, almost dropping its sword every time it hits my knife. I continued to receive it without attacking at all. Yet Hobgoblin continued to swing his sword without rest, and finally, the sword slipped from its hand and its quivering body lay down on the ground. You can't be fooled by a counterattack that doesn't do any damage. So, Haru, is there any difference between home and here? Yeah, I don't see any at the moment. I don't think there would be based on this. Oh. Haru. As a result of Haru's analysis, when she judged that there was no difference, I felt a sense of discomfort behind me and swung my knife. Gugu. Hobgoblin. There was a hobgoblin with its whole body glowing and striking at me. There were no wounds on its body, but it must not have had enough strength left to move. If that's the case, is this power the result of a skill? The skill may have increased its fighting power, but could it make up for the loss of strength? Even as I thought about this, I firmly struck it with the side of my knife and flipped it away. The attack, which was much more powerful than before, was still too far away to reach me, and it rolled to the ground in the distance without being able to do anything. If there's no change, it's over? Yeah. Haru. I put away my knife, drew my sword, and approached the fallen hobgoblin. After all this time, the Black Wolf and the Minotaur seemed to have a high level of intelligence. If that was the case with this guy, he was born to be killed and tortured for experimentation. That's what he'd say. I'm sorry. I couldn't help but think of such words. Maybe it was because I was caught off guard by the situation. Was it because they weren't the enemy in the first place? My mind was already far away from the battle, but that didn't mean there were no chances. From the point of view of the weak, this is their last chance. Jaya. Hobgoblin. It roared with all its might, using its exhausted and unmoving body, and its glowed body. Brother, move back. Haru. Still, unfortunately, it's a good thing for us, I guess. The distance between the goblin and me was somewhat too far. The goblin's glowing body came at me, breaking the upper limit of its speed. I hurriedly thrust my sword out in front of me, but it was bounced by its strangely rigid body, and its other hand passed in front of me. With the sword flipped to the side and out of its hand, I follow Haru's instructions and step back, readying my knife. I thought it would give chase, and I would face it. But it didn't happen. No, it couldn't. It forcefully put one foot in front of the other as if chasing me and then stopped. Its eyes had lost their light and it was not looking anywhere. I guess it ran out of strength. Haru. At the same time as Haru's words of confirmation, its body disappeared into mist from above, and all that remained of it was an increase in our power and announcement of a level up. What was that about? Brother, it was pitiful. The situation has obviously changed after my last report. Haru. Oh, it was weird. Maybe it became stronger than the Minotaur. It's both fast and tough. Yeah. The cooldown of the analysis has just ended, so I tried to analyze it when it put its foot forward just before it died. Haru. How was it? Goblin King. The fighting power was 197 at that time, and the fighting power itself was declining at a considerable speed. I think we might have died if it were able to hit us. Haru. Haru's words caught me off guard. Haru said that we could have died. This means that you can never win by yourself. Well, that's just the way it is. Perhaps the Goblin King hadn't used his skills when my sword hit him. It's all about repelling the sword with sheer hardness. It is definitely more powerful than the Earth Dragon. Maybe more than 400 fighting power before the fighting power went down. Haru. Well, we won't be able to win. What the hell is with that mysterious phenomenon of the dungeon? I can't keep up with the dungeon based on my understanding. It's impossible to understand the dungeon in the first place. It was like a hero. It wasn't killed, we just kept beating it up. In the end, it was about to be killed and I told it that it was pitiful. Squeezing its last power, raising its voice, cutting its life and evolving. Finally, rewarded even by a little, it still died after crossing its limits. It is like it lived the life of a hero, right? Haru. However, unlike us who only have power, it confronted the overwhelmingly strong enemy with its power. The way it was rewarded by the strong, who called it an experiment and tortured it, before it died standing up, exhausted. I was a little shocked to see that it was like a hero itself. But you know what? We look like villains. Haru. I've never thought that defeating monsters in dungeons was justice. I've never thought of it as being for the good of the country, society, or others. I've done it all for money and entertainment. And yet, we were children who were not ready to be part of society. Somehow, but for no reason. We have never been in the thick of society to be able to laugh at ourselves when we are accused of being the villains, the monsters. Once again, the meaning and depth of killing a living being have been deeply etched in my mind. Even so, I don't want to stop exploring the dungeon, yet I can't seem to straighten my thoughts. Are we going home today? Yeah, let's go. Haru. Haru's expression was even more emotionless than usual. I'm not sure what to do. I walked over to the magic circle that had appeared after the Goblin King had fallen, took a step back, picked up the small drop items scattered around my feet, and shoved them into my bag. Then we got on the magic circle. We thought about getting on it, but we thought about what would happen if there were people on the other side of the transition area. So we transitioned back to the entrance of the 5th level and walked the shortest route back to the dungeon entrance. Are you okay? Don't be depressed because you couldn't defeat the monster. At first, everyone is like that. Explorer 1. Gahahaha. You were scared of the slime at first. Wow, it's moving, it's moving, it's moving, it's disgusting. Explorer 2. You shouldn't say that when I'm giving them advice as their senior. Explorer 1. I made my way up to the 2nd level without being spotted and exited the dungeon with my face slightly raised, but it seemed that my face hadn't returned to normal, and I was approached and encouraged by some friendly old men. Thank you. Yeah. Haru. I also thanked them awkwardly and headed for the changing room. I glanced at the entrance to the dungeon dam and saw a thin layer of magic still buzzing around. I let out a sigh, wondering if I'd have to think about how to deal with that one, took out the things in my locker, and headed for the locker room. Chapter 31. I went to the locker room to change into the normal clothes I had brought with me and went outside. I stopped by the restroom and transferred the dropped items I had in my bag to my item pouch. Then I went to the lobby in front of the reception desk and saw Haru leaning against the wall, looking earnestly at the back of the reception desk. No. She's looking at something in the reception area that requires her skills. I'm not sure if she's analyzed it as it was, but she took out a notepad and pen and was about to write it down, so I grabbed her hand and stopped her. What are you doing? Don't scare me. Haru looks at me in a slightly moody tone. What's wrong? The fact that you just startled me and the way people are looking at me. Haru replied with a grimace. So, well, 16-year-olds usually need parental permission and very few parents allow it, and today is a weekday so it's a school day. Moreover, Haru is average in height. That's right, but Haru, you can get a license to explore dungeons without parental permission as long as you are over the age of 16. However, it is not easy to prepare the equipment that is good enough for exploring. A simple metal bat is not considered a weapon, and armor is not available to the general public. If I wanted to get all of them, the cost would be beyond what a teenager could afford. In addition, even if they are able to get the weapons and armor, their license can be suspended at the discretion of their parents if they are under 18. That's why the rule prohibits 16-year-olds from exploring, and why no parent or guardian would allow them to explore dungeons where they can't make money or even risk their lives. That's why there was no one around us who seemed to be of the same age as us. By the way, why did you stop my hand? Haru, there are security cameras and people watching everything you write. If people saw what you wrote, they'd realize it's not something you could have easily just observed. Oh, I see. So, are we leaving? Haru. I was a little confused by Haru's question about leaving the dungeon. Dan. I've been feeling magic from things other than what's in this reception area for a while now. Haru, do you sense any other source of magical powers? Oh, I think it's that one. I found it. Haru. Even with our skills, we couldn't make a device that would automatically use our skills, and we didn't get any drops. I looked it up in my analysis. As it turns out, I couldn't inspect everything. It's probably a combination of skills and science. Haru. Oh, that's what it is. A fusion of skill and science. It's not possible for an ordinary person to do that. But then again, you mean you have the production system skills that can be obtained by defeating the Minotaur, right? In other words, that is a device made by the self-defense forces at the forefront. It's something troublesome. Haru, it was bigger than I expected. I thought the strongest party in the dungeon picked it up, but it seems that it was made by a larger organization than I previously expected. If so, it's a bad idea to check it out. Shall we leave? Yeah, let's go. We can't even go out to eat. Haru, I've spent all my money on weapons and armor. Let's go home and have dinner there. Yup. Haru, fortunately, there were no devices at the exit, only guards. So we left as usual. It's not that I'm doing anything criminal, but I've gotten used to feeling like I'm doing something wrong. We got on the train and went home without any problems. Now, can you tell me the results of the analysis of the device as far as you can remember? Yes, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I'll start writing down what I found out now. Haru. Lesser Wolf Iron. Iron with the magical power of Lesser Wolf. Perceive nature. Lesser Wolf Iron. Iron with the magical power of Lesser Wolf. Display. Lesser Wolf Iron. Iron with the magical power of Lesser Wolf. Activate. Lesser Wolf Iron. Iron with the magical power of Lesser Wolf. Connect. I think this is the parts that were used, and the electronics are operating them in order to run that device. Haru. By the way, what is the effect of those skills? Here they are. Haru. Perceive nature. Type. Skill. Active time. 3 meters. Cooldown. 1 meter. Examine target's skills. Display. Type. Skill. Visualizing the information sent to living beings. Activate. Type. Skill. When an object that possesses a skill is touched, the skill possessed by the object is used externally. Always active, as a rule. Connect. Type. Skill. Active time, until the next skill is used. Connect skills. I wonder did they make it, by combining the parts with the, activate, skill and the one, display, skill together. Then they might have let both interact using and, connect, every 4 minutes. Did they take the displayed information with the camera, turn it into electronic information, and store it? Haru. That's what you would normally think. Come to think of it, you can't use your skills outside. What did they do? You can't use any of those skills outside, right? Yeah. And that device was covered with a metal box except for the sides. Haru. Oh, that's right. Wasn't that for protection? That was something else, too. It's not manufactured, It's a genuine drop. Haru, micro dungeon. Creating a dungeon in a box. So, you can use skills in that box. That's tricky. So, the magical power we saw is to grasp the qualities. By the way, what is the nature of that skill? It's the first skill that creatures can get regardless of their skill. Maybe it's similar to your perception and my detection, but I wonder if it's okay to protect personal information. Haru, it's a newly created dungeon skill. You can make a lot of noise about privacy, but it's not clearly defined as personal information. This may change if there is a lawsuit in the future, but no one will be able to notice it in the first place. Compared to the magical power that moves with magic, the magical power that moves with skills is insignificant. Even if your skill is magic-related, you won't know what skill you have until you defeat the 5th layer boss, so you only feel uncomfortable. It's quite troublesome. Haru, we both let out a sigh at our country's way of doing things, as if they're not afraid of being found out, but we couldn't do anything about it, so we changed our focus. Oh, that reminds me, I didn't notice the drop last time and missed the self-appraisal. Oh, by the way, last time we missed self-assessment, because we didn't notice the drop. Here, the drops. We've become something like villains. We should at least choose what the main character goblin dropped. Haru, yes. The drop items are 2 iron cards, 1 silver, 1 gold, and 1 black. Do you want to put off gold and black and use only iron and silver? I picked up the cards one by one and tried them out. I picked up the iron card, but it didn't work, so I picked up the silver card and it responded. Material, nature. Suddenly, something strange appeared in my mind and the card turned into a fog and disappeared. The card disappeared with it. What's wrong, brother? Haru, no, something came up the moment I used my skill card. Brother, I think you've got some kind of analytical skill. I'll take a look. I'll show you. Oh, I got it. Can't you see it yourself? Material cognition. Looking at my own hands and I think about material cognition, and in my mind. Then, material, biological, fighting power. 194 qualities, stealth, positioning, material cognition, speed, power, guard, bind, chain, slow, loss, perception, acceleration, alchemy. Oh, wow. But it's a lot harder to read than Haru's. Magic capacity and strength aren't separated. Magic, skills, and passives are indistinguishable. Well, then it's a lower skill under analysis. By the way, self-assessment. Can't see details like analysis, and it seems that you can't see your name, skills, and magic attribute. Haru, in other words, self-assessment is a subskill of analysis, and material cognition skill is a subskill of self-assessment. Maybe yes. By the way, do you know the details of the skill? Haru, this material cognition cooldown time 10s. First cognitive skill. That's it. There's not much information. This is what it looks like when I use analysis. Haru, material cognition type, skill, cooldown time, 10s, perceive details of objects that have no magical resistance. There's no such thing about the first cognitive skill, but this one is more detailed. By the way, can you use material cognition on me? I'm trying not to resist it as much as possible right now. Haru, it's impossible. Even if you don't resist, you still have a small amount of magical resistance. That's true. Haru, while I was checking my skills, Haru uses a card I haven't used yet. I also found out my new skill, name, Haruka, proficiency, magic, craft, magic attribute, fissure, explosion, electric, level, 56, strength, 64, magic capacity, 132, skill, analysis, magic bullets, rampage, magic, bomb, time bomb, impact, number, plasma, fissure, separation, barrier, passive, magic recovery, detection, crafting, magic manipulation, T/N. So I changed the second item skill to proficiency since it seems to make more sense. I will retroactively change the other chapters with this. Thank you. You've got some pretty disturbing skills. I can't help but throw such words at me after seeing magic bullet and rampage. Yeah, magic bullet is a skill that just shoots magical power as it is, and rampage just uses magic power to increase the ability. Haru, well, Leave it at that until we can use it next time. Then, what about the gold and black? Yeah, I feel like I'm with the gold one. That's where my eyes always go. If I didn't think about anything, I would probably use it before I realize it. Haru, I feel like that too. It feels like I'm being pulled by the black one. Something magical is not happening, but it feels like my eyes are somehow always drawn to it. Then, I'll touch it. Here goes. Haru. I used the black card to match Haru's shout. It felt like the temperature of my body was suddenly burning up, but there's still a chill across my skin. Then distorted letters come to my mind. Domination. As the letters disappeared, the heat of my body went away. How was it? Haru. Haru was smiling next to me while looking at me. Domination. I don't know the details. Leave it to me. Anyway, my card is a skill called Skill Sublimation. I couldn't learn any new magic or skills, but I could sublimate my skills. So I sublimated Analysis, and added it to Detection, to make Inspection. It doesn't mean that it doesn't matter what your magic resistance is, but it seems I can force anyone with less magic than me to accept the Analysis. Haru was so happy that she started to ramble on. That's good. What about my skills? As I listened, I released my own magic power to resist, but the magic power coming towards me from Haru became thinner and thinner, weaving between my magic power and approaching me with ease, touching me easily. Don't resist. I did it. Here it is. Haru. Name, Tuka. Proficiency, Enchant/Alchemy. Magic attribute, None. Curse. Level, 56. Strength, 79. Magic capacity, 115. Skill, Stealth/Positioning, Material Cognition, Domination. Magic, Speed, Power, Guard, Bind, Chain, Slow, Loss. Passive, Perception, Acceleration, Alchemy. And this is the result of using Detection on Domination that you're interested in. Haru. Domination. To control only those things that match one's ability. Yeah, I don't understand what that means. I know, I don't get it. Haru. Well, it's time to make dinner. I'll wait. Tomorrow we'll go to the dungeon. Also, I'll look for a trash skill since it has a shorter cool time now that I have Inspection. As usual, we quickly put important matters out of our minds and return to our peaceful lives. It would be a long time before we would notice the unsettling atmosphere in the dungeon. Chapter 32. 3 weeks have passed since then, and in dungeons all over Japan, parties have defeated the boss of the fifth lair, and after one party defeated it, many others followed suit. The hobgoblins were winnable without any skills, so they didn't struggle that much. The hardest part was the mental part. As we had experienced, hobgoblins have an overwhelmingly high defense compared to previous monsters, and you have to attack them repeatedly. They kept attacking with blunt weapons and sharp blades in an attempt to kill their humanoid opponents, and some people couldn't stand it and retired as explorers. Then, of course, the vacant party would have to find new members to explore with. That would also cause relationship problems. I heard that some people have already been detained due to excessive solicitation and fighting. It's possible to explore without 4 people like us, and leveling up is efficient. But it seems that people who have been doing it with 4 people are suddenly hindered by the fact that there are now 3. Fortunately, no one was killed so far, and only a few were seriously injured at most. Speaking of the 2 of us, I'm trying to make it to Tokyo and get daily meals. I've been working at a high-paying day job to earn money for electricity and other things. Carrying stuff, 1,500 yen per hour. Although my status doesn't have much effect outside the dungeon, I've made it to level 50. So my strength is equal to that of any burly macho man. Perhaps because of this, it was easier than expected to get a part-time job. Haru was smiling as she used her inspection to look at the dropped items that she hadn't been able to check because of the 1-minute cool time for analysis. In addition to that, I was happy that Haru took care of all the housework. I don't mean to be, but I've become a full-time housewife and breadwinner. The cool time of inspection seems to be 30 seconds. Which means that she can see twice as much as before. In addition to that, she can now watch them all at once, which is a big deal. Unlike analysis, she could look at as many things at once as many as her mind could handle. And Haru was very good at it. She looked at dozens of things at once, leaving out the ones that contained skills, and even the ones that didn't, leaving out the descriptions of the new ones. Thanks to this, Haru didn't feel uneasy in my absence. and the next few days passed without a hitch. And now we are having breakfast and a family meeting. I've been working part-time for 19 days at 1,500 yen an hour, so I have about 170,000 yen saved up, all of which has gone into savings and living expenses. Now, we've defeated the Goblin King, or rather, it died. We hadn't done anything other than hunt in the 6th layer to collect food since the day before. But yesterday we finally got some good news. To be precise, I heard about it from a group of old explorers who are fellow part-timers. Has anything happened lately? Haru tilted her head. That's right. It's not officially announced on the internet either. The number of people who have already defeated hobgoblins is increasing. So, the distribution of items has started. Oh, we can make money with this. Haru. But it's cheap. So far, only meat and furs are being bought at high prices. The other stuff is hard to use, so they're selling it cheap. Well, that means. Haru. Well, that means it won't make much money for now. We could make more money if we worked part-time. I see. Haru's shoulders slumped. Well, it can't be helped. That's why we're going to resume our dungeon exploration for entertainment. Why don't we start diving in the dungeon today? I want to try out my new skills. Yeah, I want to go. I'll go too. Haru's eyes lit up at once and she was immediately on board. Want to get ready? Roger. Haru. We were quick to prepare our equipment and spar for a bit before entering the dungeon. But you don't have much variety in dungeon exploration these days. Haru. It can't be helped. We can't go further beyond the forest. We still have a long way to go before we defeat Rimdabma. Well, that's a good starting point. Yes. Then we'll start the stampede as usual and experiment during the melee, okay? Haru. Yes, so please. I swiftly jump up the tree and look around. Obviously, I could only see trees. I'm going. Impact, decouple. Haru's magic knocked down the surrounding trees. Then, I will too. Bind towards the tree whose roots have been scooped out by impact. We use a binding that uses coordinates to force the tree to fall in the outer direction as seen from us. By the way, the tree I'm standing on is also falling outward, so I jumped off. From a distance, I hear a mixture of many monsters' screams. It's too chaotic to be described in words. Maybe there's a little more than usual, I'm not sure. I'll take this one. I'm taking this one. Haru. We walk back to back, and I activate my new skill. Domination. It's not exactly magic, so I felt like I couldn't describe it in words, but for some reason, I felt like I should, so I did. My head is rapidly cooling down, and I can feel the magic power in my body bursting out. The magical power swirled around me, and when I put my hand out in front of me, the magical power was also put out in front of me in the form of a large hand. I am fully controlling my own magical power. Is this some kind of evolution of Haru's magic manipulation? I can move my magic power as if it were part of my body. However, although it should be a skill, my magical power is continuously consumed. It seems better to use it quickly. Boom! From behind me, I hear an explosion that can't be 10 or 20. It seems that Haru has also started. I wonder if she is using Rampage at this point. Okay, will I do it too? Now that I can use magic as if it were a part of my body, it's easy to get rid of the limitations of magic. I'm going to use the magic, slow, without saying a word. Combining the power of positioning, so that it covers every enemy in an ultra-wide area. I then use bind to cover that area. However, it is not used to bind. As if moving my hands and fingers, the larger than usual thorns created by bind move around, slicing, gouging, and flicking monsters away. Pointing toward the center of the magic circle I had drawn, I would not allow a single one to escape. The thorny vines caught the monsters, then precisely gathered them in the middle. I put my two palms together in a firm clasping of my palms. Then multiple vines approached, gathered, and squeezed the monsters all at once. After that, I seemed to have used up all of my magic power and fell into a daze. There was not a shadow of a monster around. Before I knew it, the sound of Haru's battle had also ceased. Good work. You're faster than me, huh? Haru, don't push it. I'm not suited for extermination in the first place because of my skill set. So, how did you like your new skills? Haru starts talking after losing steam. To be honest, I don't really know, but when I used Rampage, I was feeling a little high, and my magical limitations were gone. That's why I was using impact, separation, and plasma at the same time, regardless of their attributes. Haru. So the effect of Rampage was to remove any limitations? Yes, and it strengthens me. I think that's it. I think Magic Bullet is an invisible bullet made up of pure magic power. If you can see the magic power directly like me, it's just a fast long-range attack. How about you? Now that I have a general understanding of Haru's skills, I will start explaining this as well. First of all, the same restrictions as in Rampage have been removed. It was possible to use magic without chanting at the same time, and I could move my magic like it was a part of me. Maybe it was a higher version of magic manipulation. Also, I think I was able to interfere with the magic in the air, though not in a significant amount. Hey, that means, hey, can you use domination for a while? Haru. I answered Haru's question while examining my body. I feel that my magical power has recovered a little. I can do it in a few seconds. Brother, I'm going to use inspection, so please use domination to resist. Here I go. Haru. Domination. A thin layer of magic power is coming towards us along with Haru's one-sided resistance. It's not easy to dominate something like that. So I use domination and use magical power to create a wall made with the magical power coming from Haru. Make sure there is no unevenness or gaps. Then Haru's inspection cannot come here. I'm going to use my magic to trap Haru's magic and return it to her. At the same time, the magical power of Haru's inspection was mixed with my magical power for some reason, and the moment it hit Haru, characters came to my mind. Name, Haruka. Proficiency, magic, craft. Magic attribute, Fisher. Explosion, electric. Level, 56. Strength, 64. Magic capacity, 132. Skill, analysis, magic bullets, rampage. Magic, bomb, time bomb, impact, number, plasma, Fisher, separation, barrier. Passive, magic recovery, detection, crafting, magic manipulation. T/N. The author is still using detection, but previously he is using inspection. I'll check it later if anything changes. This is almost the same display as when Haru uses analysis on me. In other words, it is possible to hijack other people's skills. That's right. I have to resist, though. If I don't move my magic more carefully, they'll easily resist. Haru. Okay. With Haru's advice, I picked up the drop items that were scattered around the area. I put all of them in my item pouch, go to the cave room with the stairs, and take out all of the drop items I put in my item pouch. Haru is now able to see all of the items at once with inspection, and I am able to examine the materials and skills in the items faster than Haru due to my material cognition, so we decided to separate what we need from what we don't need before we leave. So, 2 trash skills for today, and that's all we're taking home. Yeah, throw away other things. Haru. And so we enjoyed exploring the dungeon as usual. Chapter 33. We woke up at the usual time and watched today's news on the internet. I know I shouldn't say it's something interesting, but it is in our interest to read this. There had been an incident in a dungeon. Unique monster appears in 9th floor of Tokyo Dungeon. The headline was something like this, and the bottom line was that there was an unusual and powerful monster on the 9th floor. The problem was the damage caused by this, which resulted in 3 deaths. I heard that the last one escaped with his life. This was the first time that a dungeon had recorded a death after it had been opened to the public in Japan. Speaking of which, the dungeons in other prefectures that we don't hear much about have 5 of Japan's strongest parties moving from place to place at their expense, and they are always at the forefront. In addition, the number of explorers is much smaller than in the Tokyo Dungeon, so problems are less likely to occur. According to our research, rare monsters, or unique monsters as they are called in the world, are the ones that appear when you frequently hunt monsters in a certain area. Of course, we've also experimented with other levels besides the forest and found that unique monsters don't appear in the first 4 levels and the boss rooms. In other words, the appearance of unique monsters this time is a phenomenon unique to Tokyo Dungeons, where people are concentrated. Finally, there's bad luck. I guess they were unlucky enough to have an overwhelmingly strong monster appear. As a countermeasure, the group of heroes with the highest average level among the 5 strongest parties has been hurriedly called up from the Hokkaido dungeon to take them down. In addition to this, a total of 10 parties, including special forces under the direct control of the government that have not been disclosed until now, will also participate to ensure the safety of the surrounding area. If they're going to do that, they should probably bring out the self-defense forces, who are probably on the front lines. But I wonder if they're aiming to appeal to the Heroes Party and the self-defense forces. Maybe they just want to keep the SDF on the front lines. There was no information on the strength or appearance of the monsters, either to prevent foolish challengers who didn't know what they were capable of or because they didn't know in the first place. However, since he was able to destroy the party that was exploring the 9th floor, it seems that the strength of the party is well above level 20. One of our recent accomplishments is that we have acquired a magic tool for the first time in a long time. Haru examined it and found this skill box can store a certain number of skills. The shape is similar to an ordinary metal box, which is why we expected it to be a micro dungeon at first, but it was completely different. We didn't know how to use it, but as we tried it out, we found out that if you put something with a skill on top and pour magic power into the magic circle on the side, the thing on top would disappear and only the skill would be stored in the box. We got carried away and used all the skill plates in the skill box, but there seemed to be more skills in the box than we thought, so we never lost any skills. By the way, we have over 100 garbage skills in our skill box. In addition to that, I was saddened by the fact that all the skill storage plates that we worked so hard to make were used and disappeared. We should have used them in the skill box after transferring the skills to other trash drops through alchemy. The only way to get the skills out of the skill box is to put a non-skill item on top and put a lot of magic power into the magic circle next to it while reminding yourself what skill you want to get out. It usually takes about 10 magic power for each skill. Also, if I used alchemy, I could do it easily with almost no magic power consumption. Now that the season has turned to June and the weather is getting wet and humid, we got a leak in our house. It seems that the normal rain was no problem for us, but we couldn't handle the constant downpour. That's why. Okay, let's renovate. Haru said cheerfully, and I wondered what kind of nonsense she was talking about. But if I think about it, we can use both alchemy and crafting. If we could use this somehow, we could make the house stronger. We started by taking out various materials from the pots that could no longer be used, as they had already exceeded their limits. There was a good variety of stone and wood materials alone, and even the low-level materials that we had no use for were saved as 5 samples each, so we could choose any color we wanted. I looked for materials that were closer to the color at the walls of the house and took them out. Even though I had the materials ready, if I tried to work on a sunny day, I would be exposed, so I decided to work on a rainy day. Fortunately, it's supposed to rain heavily tomorrow, followed by a few days of sunshine. This meant that we had to gather the missing materials today. Having decided on all the materials to be used for the outside of the house, the next step is to decide on the materials to be used for the inside of the house. This is not visible from the outside of the house, so we don't have to weigh ourselves down. We can freely use materials from the forest here. There are plenty of forest materials in the jar, so what's missing are materials for the outside of the house. I've only left samples of what I can get at the lower levels, so we'll need to go hunting, but the amount will be small since it's only the surface anyway. A few dozen kilos should be enough. Okay, Haru, we're going hunting. Roger. Haru. We quickly put on our gear, finished our sparring, and went into the dungeon. We had to go through several levels this time, and there was a possibility we might have to go back and forth, so we didn't use transition. Since we could only use it once for each trip, it wouldn't hurt to save it for emergencies. However, we didn't want to waste time, so we ran at full speed from Layer 1 to Layer 6 without killing any monsters. Since we didn't have to worry about the eyes around us, we got there in about 30 minutes, as expected of our level 50 plus status. So, I went down the floors without fighting the hobgoblin, and at first, we played with golems in the 7th layer. Actually, it's not as cute as it sounds, since it was a one-sided massacre of booms and smash. After all, Haru shoots attacks all over the place with magic bullets, so monsters keep coming closer. In any case, Monsters seem to be quicker to appear from places that are not included in people's search for them, and they come out endlessly. And about 10% of those monsters are golems. It's so easy to just swing your sword at them and they'll come right at you and die. I don't know how long we kept doing this. I couldn't tell you the exact time because I wasn't looking at my watch, but let's just say it was until our eyes started to glaze over. I don't think we're bored either. So we went down to the lower levels and killed a black wolf with one blow to relieve stress, then took a break at the exit of layer 10. The next thing to hunt is the treant that appears in the 13th level. It's a so-called tree monster, but because it's in a cave, it can't mimic anything at all, and the other party probably doesn't want it to, either, because the ground is a dungeon so it can't be buried, and it moves its roots dexterously to come at you. I was surprised when I first saw it. Gee, Haru. Now I'm destined to accompany Haru's scornful words, and before long, we're bored to death. And so we continued to hunt here. I don't like this anymore. To the extent that two of us say such words. After a while, all the materials were gathered and we headed back to the house. It was 10 p.m. and we were exhausted, so we transitioned home. We had only brought lunch with us, so we hadn't eaten dinner. However, my mind was more exhausted than my body. Not hungry. Sleep. Haru. Me too. We both went to bed without eating dinner. Incidentally, we killed one unique monster while gathering wood. It was weak, so there was no problem. The drop was a staff made of wood. The handle was about a meter long and gnarled like an old tree, and on the tip was amber with a magic circle instead of an insect. It also had a skill attached to it, Sanctuary. Create a space that is inaccessible to monsters. What a powerful skill, I thought, but there was more to this sentence. Can only be used by those with heal proficiency. Well, to put it simply, from our point of view, it's just a wand with beautiful decorations and a magic circle engraved on it. It was my first time to have an item with strong skills, so I expected it, but that expectation was ruined. I thought it would be a good idea to combine that skill with another garbage skill, and the decoration of the staff itself was so beautiful that we kept it as it was without any modification. 3rd person perspective. By the way, the 10 exploration parties under the direct control of the government were investigating the dungeon by the time the hero party returned. In the first place, how were the 40 members of the government's direct troops selected? It was based on some unexpected and surprising criteria. Ability and experience. That's it. Many members of the police and fire departments have extensive experience in martial arts, and from among them, those with the best abilities are selected. With the consent of the individual, they recruited to become explorers under the direct control of the government. They are commonly referred to as the advanced explorers, and they work according to the instructions of the upper management of dungeon management. So why aren't the self-defense forces the first ones to explore the dungeon? The SDF's job is national defense. The SDF's job is to protect the safety of the civilian population, but protecting civilians who go into dungeons on their own is somewhat beyond the SDF's jurisdiction. That is why there are no explorers in the SDF, only experienced explorers. In addition, the self-defense force is not involved in the dungeon because the members who challenged the 15th layer were wiped out, leaving only one member. The members of the advanced explorers are only made up of those with A and B level qualities. These qualities, or skills, are ranked according to their merits, ranging from D to S class. Class D is 40% of the total, Class C is 50%, Class B is 9%, and Class A is just under 1%. The last 0.1% of the population was considered to be S class. If it is D class, Scream, an ability to emit a loud voice to frighten enemies, and Cool, that can lower the temperature of things to 1 degree. If it is C class, Light Step, helps you with movement and make what you carry lighter, and Perception, that can help you see nearby creatures. If it is a B grade, you can see the status of the other party using Detection, or Prediction, which allows you to see the possible behavior of the other party. If you're in the A level or higher, you'll have a skill that only the upper echelons know about. Then, what kind of work does the hero party do in front of such exemplary members? It seems that the upper echelons will only secretly smile. Chapter 34. When we woke up in the morning, it was raining hard outside, and the sound of water dripping into a bucket inside the house. The house is currently leaking. Luckily or unluckily, it was raining hard and the wind was blowing a bit, and not a single car was passing by outside. To begin with, I don't see many cars even on a sunny day. Well, brother, let's do it. Haru changed into her usual exploration gear for safety and put on a jacket over it. I changed into a similar outfit and made sure I had all the necessary items in my item pouch before heading out. Wow, it's really raining. The rain was coming down in force, and without the convenience of a waterproof spray, our shoes were soaked in no time at all. Still, thanks to our thorough modifications, the spikes were solid. They were metal spikes, so they wouldn't slip in the rain or on the ice. I looked around. Based on my perception and Haru's detection, there didn't seem to be anyone around. So, let's start working. I take a few steps backward and kick the ground to make sure I'm not slipping. Once I was sure I wasn't slipping, I kicked the muddy ground firmly, ran towards the house at full speed, and jumped as high as I could. My hands easily caught the roof, and my momentum carried me up to the top of the roof. I lay on my stomach and reached down and pulled Haru up as she grabbed me. First of all, the roof tiles of our house. All of them needed to be made of stone from the dungeon. But if we tried to do that, we'd need as many items as there were tiles. Then we thought about it. Oh, by the way, the concrete powder in the basement. We must not have disposed of it. Concrete is stone if you think about it. Okay. Let's connect all the tiles. So I mixed the concrete with water and brought it to the item pouch in a usable state. Advertisements. I put them in a narrow line and connected all the tiles. It was difficult to put it on the tiles properly because it would be washed away by the rain. In this way, the roof tiles were all connected, although the concrete was not yet solid. Now, let's move on to alchemy. By touching the roof with my right hand and putting my left hand in the item pouch, I can change the material of the roof one by one. The stones we collected were more than enough, and we were able to turn all the tiles into dungeon materials. Next, we peeled off a tile and touched the wood underneath it. Water had probably gotten through the wood and caused it to decay, which in turn caused it to leak. So, I used alchemy on the wood under the roof to turn it into dungeon material. Since this area is not visible from the outside, I used materials from the forest to the fullest. Then we moved on to the finishing touches. If I don't do this, people with analysis, appraisal, and detection type skills will know that the materials are dungeon materials. In order to avoid that, I had to make some modifications on my own, since I didn't have crafting. Then I thought of something. To be precise, I came up with the idea of the concrete truth. I would have to destroy what I added. I used a hammer to break the concrete lines that had been turned into dungeon material. Just like that, the dungeon material loses its original strength and is no longer dungeon material. However, it doesn't lose its durability. It's just that there is no compensation for durability like in the dungeon. If that were all, it would be hard enough compared to ordinary stone. Thus, our roof was reborn as a sturdy roof of unknown material. Next was the walls, but there was not much to do here. I just trapped the house with hemp string, changing it into a dungeon material all at once and breaking it. Since hemp is a plant, I figured I could turn it into dungeon material all at once. My plan was successful, and after using alchemy on the walls all at once and somehow cutting the hemp cord that was no longer hemp, I found that the walls had also become strong walls of unknown material. After repeating the same process all the way to the inside of the house, we finished the renovation of the house in the evening. Now, we can celebrate the renovation of the house. Let's celebrate. We're going to renovate the basement next. Haru. Advertisements. Oh, that's right. Right. The walls and ground of the basement were wood and stone and should be remade with alchemy. Then, there's something I noticed. The advertisements. Maybe this house is defective. No, the foundation is solid and it doesn't seem to lean, but there seems to be a cavity under the floor. The sound is not found all throughout the house, and magic only goes under the floor, even though it is supposed to be connected to the ground when I use alchemy. I checked it out and found a cavity up to 2 meters high. It seems that the dungeon extending far underground is a support pillar, so it won't sink. I don't know if it's because of the dungeon, if it sank with the passage of time, or if it was originally a defective house. I'm not sure, so I took the item pouch to the woods near the house, got some soil, and filled the hollow area. In addition, I used alchemy with the leftover stone, so no problem. It's easy to forget when you're playing games all the time. But even soil will turn into rock after it's been compressed for a long time. There's no problem. By the way, The way to put soil into the cavity under the floor is to first drill a hole about 5 centimeters in diameter in the floor. Insert the mouth of the item bag filled with soil into the hole. Only take out the soil from inside. Voila, easy. So, I've finally finished renovating our house. Good job. Haru is clapping her hands behind me. Then make dinner, brother. Haru, let me take a break. I complained, but I made sure to cook dinner. Now that it has become part of my routine, I do it even when I'm tired. I'd like to say that, but I regret that I didn't make it yesterday, so I quickly made it and we both started eating. By the way, Haru, when will the brave man go to Tokyo? I'd like to see them for the time being. I don't think they'll be flying or exploring Tokyo right away, so maybe in a few days? Haru, then, do you want to go to Tokyo that day? All right. Haru, it was raining hard, so our run was cancelled. We took a quiet bath and got a good night's sleep. Then I noticed something. Haru didn't do much today, did she? By the time I realized this, Haru was already asleep, and I decided to cry myself to sleep. By the way, I'm the type of person who forgets details after sleeping. 3rd person perspective. Today, the members of the Advanced Exploration Team are still investigating the Tokyo dungeon. Some are good at fighting, some are good at scouting, and some are good at supporting. At the moment, 2 parties of 8 are working together, with safety being the top priority. In some dungeons, there is a disadvantage to exploring with more than 4 people. Enemies defeated by more than 5 people will not leave anything behind. It's exhausting. It's a waste of time and effort. So what kind of person would want to play in a large group? That's the kind of people who aren't looking for experience or items. For example, someone who has to get rid of a certain powerful monster. Advertisements. Since the boss is currently moving around the 9th floor, ordinary people are not allowed to enter the 9th floor. However, there is no need to go through the 9th floor if you have defeated the Black Wolf at least once, because there is a transition zone. In the first place, there are only so many parties of explorers that can go to the 9th floor that can be counted on one hand, so there's no reason to complain. Advertisements. By the way, there was a unique monster that tried to go up to layer 8 once, and they engaged it. The fighting power of the unique monster was just out of this world. The advanced explorers also had strong skills, but that wasn't limited to the fighting kind. Still, all of them had risen to the level of defeating the Black Wolf. In a party, such members fought with 16 people, ignoring demerits, and the result was defeat. They managed to escape to the 9th layer to bring the monsters back to the 9th layer, and the members who escaped went their separate ways to meet up with the rest of the party. It was the day after tomorrow when the brave group arrived at the Tokyo dungeon. Feeling pathetic, the advanced explorers awaited the arrival of the hero party. Chapter 35. Please. Yes, I have confirmed. Please note that access to the 9th floor is currently prohibited. Receptionist. Haha, I wish I had the ability to go that deep. We're currently in a dungeon dam. We finished the renovation the day before yesterday and it was still raining heavily yesterday, but today it cleared up and it was easy to come to Tokyo. The shoes were soaking wet, so I added dryer to them, which I found in the trash skills, and they dried up nicely. However, in its current state, it is a bother, so I removed it. Speaking of which, there, perceive nature, device at the reception had disappeared before I knew it. It seems that the hero party is currently in the dungeon market filming for a live TV broadcast. I'm not sure if it's because of that, but I think there are a few people in the dungeon dam. Then, Haru, see you later. As we split up and went to the changing room, I heard a voice from outside. We, the hero party, take pride in our name. We will safely defeat the unique monster. Yuki. It seems that the group of heroes is about to embark on a quest. Will it get more and more crowded from now on? When I finish changing my clothes in a hurry, I leave the changing room with my bag with my change of clothes. I was earlier than Haru today, so I took out the money and opened the door of the coin locker, and Haru came and we packed our things together. Hey, hurry up. By the way, the hero party can go up to the 10th floor, but we can only go up to the 5th floor. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Haru. It's a ridiculous situation, but it can't be helped because we've defeated more than 100 black wolves at home dozens of times. We might not have any choice on the matter. I walked into the dungeon with Haru pushing me and the hero party being interviewed at our side. When we enter the nearby transition area, we touch the magic circle and think of the 5th floor exit. My vision changed as usual, and we are now on the 5th floor. Then, let's go. We'll have to keep our speed down since we'll be noticed. What about the route? Haru, I've got a rough map lying around on the internet, so I've memorized it. Let's go. We headed towards the 9th floor with a short run. We met a lot of explorers on the way, but they seem to have developed a manner of walking on the right side of the road, keeping their distance and looking up. According to them, since most people are right-handed, attacking the left would delay them for a moment. Someone suggested it to curb the killing and wounding in the dungeon, and it spread. Walking is genuinely safer than running, both for you and your opponent. The only reason to look up is so that people will remember your face when you commit a crime. So we keep running, and when other explorers pass by, we move to the right and walk. The only thing is that they remember our faces, so we hide them under our clothes and wear chains around our necks. Of course, we have alchemized it with dungeon materials and given it certain garbage skills. Worthless. Loses impression for a certain amount of time. Well, to put it simply, although we can't disguise ourselves, our faces become less memorable. As long as people don't stare at your face when they pass us, I think we'll be fine. I also added their activate skill, which we only had 2 of, because without that it would only make the chain less memorable. I had experimented before and found out that if you put more than one skill on one object, the one you put the skill on will break. I prepared 2 short chains, attached the skills separately, and then connected them into one chain. From there, we continued straight through the dungeon, and when we entered the 7th level, we started to look around. Currently, the highest floor an ordinary person can reach is the 11th floor. However, more than 2 months have passed, and the difference in ability is starting to show, so it seems that the people on the front lines are often on the 7th floor. In other words, the people we see around here are excellent adventurers, if not the best. It would be troublesome if someone were to remember our faces. It had been a long time since we had a hard time getting down to the 9th floor since we're changing our route so as not to meet other explorers. Haru, how about the actions of the people around? Yes, there are 2 people in the area that even brother can see. Something's wrong. Haru, I'm not misunderstanding it then. There are 2 people in the range of perception that I can confirm, but the reaction is unusually small for both of them. However, the fighting power also does not seem to be strong. Isn't it a skill like stealth? It's probably much stronger than stealth. Haru, if you have a strong skill that is not suitable for your level, that would be the case. So, because our level is high, still even with the high level of their skill, we were still able to detect them. Probably, brother, let's work together to see through it. Haru, if we're not careful, they'll find out, and then we'll have to run. It's okay, I only check the least I can. Haru, it's been a month since the King Goblin incident. We've been experimenting and raising our levels in the forest. This is why you can find new ways to use the same skills and magic. First of all, we became more aware of the 2 people I was checking out and joined hands with Haru. Haru passed her magic power with detection through me once and I deliver it to them, adding the effect of stealth. An undetectable thread of magic power reaches out and touches them. For a moment, the moment the magic touched them, they began to look around. Let's go, Haru. We immediately leave the scene and run through a different path than the 2 of them. So how was it? After running a good distance, make sure there is no one around and then I ask Haru. I only saw it for a moment, so I could only confirm only a bit of it. I didn't have time to transmit the magical power fully, so I don't know their name and gender. Haru, it's okay if you know only the important parts. And that's 1 man and 1 woman. Their skeletal build was like that. It's the chopping block for a person who grasps another person's gender through their skeleton. Haru, don't say that. It is true that it was hard to tell from the appearance because of the hood. So, what was the result of the inspection? Oh, the skills were colorless and transparent, and harmless dull. Both are skills for hiding. The performance of these skills is far different from that of stealth. It was leagues better, so it's probably a top-tier skill. Haru. The difference between the two skills must be overwhelming because Haru said they were different by an enormous margin. I was curious, so I asked her about the detailed results of her inspection. Colorless and transparent, interferes with the other person's vision, hiding their own appearance and even reducing the color of their presence. Harmless dull, would let the user distract and disguise themselves until they struck their first blow. Now, that's a lot of cloak and dagger skills to pull off. Haru. I couldn't help but cringe at the cheating nature of the skill Haru had revealed to me. That's impossible. You can't win against that much stealth. They're geniuses, huh? Haru. Boom. I stopped talking and listened carefully to the sound of a small explosion coming from far away. The sound reverberates well in the cave. However, perhaps it's a dungeon phenomenon, but the sound doesn't reverberate as much as in a normal natural cave. At best, it's comparable to the inside of a house. If you don't have good ears, you won't notice. It was hard to tell because of the echoes, but I slowly walked toward the direction I thought was probably this way. Boom. The explosion rang out again. However, it was clearly louder than before. I could also hear the sound of metal clashing against metal. And then, brother, there are too many presents reacting. Haru, who knows a wider area than I do, seemed to have seen the battle. But what do you mean by too many? Monsters, unique monsters? In the dungeon, we don't use numbers except for monsters. The reason for this is that there are various restrictions placed on us. There is a numerical value called status that is required to progress through the dungeon. It is also a level requirement for wearing equipment. And then, there are more than 4 people fighting. Haru, there's a limit to the number of people you can have in a dungeon, and just one more person means you can't take advantage of the dungeon. With that feeling, there is only one unique monster and I don't know if it's the heroes, but there are 12 explorers. There are 3 parties. Haru, does that mean they're only interested in defeating it? As I walked slowly and cautiously, I could see that there was a battle going on within the range of perception, as well as several parties that were not participating in the battle. There are 6 parties in total, including the parties engaged in battle. Including us, that would make 7 parties. T/N, since the 2-hero party is not formally introduced to the MCs, I'll address them as such: Hero, Yuki, Shield, Gouter, Healer, Risa, Magician, Arasu. High Heel, Voice, I hear a voice from the non-combatant party. High Power, Voice. Furthermore, it seems that the enchanter was included in the party that was not fighting. It seems that the limit on the number of people in a dungeon does not matter if you are just looking around. However, cooperation was not allowed. Enchanting and healing constitutes sufficient cooperation. This seems to indicate that there are 6 parties fighting. Now, beyond even our grasp, we came to a distance where we could see the battle. It was a large space in the dungeon. It's a place we've used for hunting treants. Even in different dungeons, such open spaces still exist. Covering Haru and me with magic, I activate stealth with all my concentration. Normally, the magic power is only used to an unrecognizable degree, but little by little it is used. I look at the open space and see 8 explorers there, shields and swords at hand, armed and ready, clad in silver armor, blocking the movement of the rampaging monsters. Around them, I see 3 parties of explorers with staffs and swords. And then there are the 4 explorers dressed in equipment that anyone who sees them will know is expensive. 2 vanguards and 2 rearguards who are older than us but still quite young. The name of the group was the Hero Party. The fighting power of the group is overwhelming compared to the other explorers, and the other explorers seem to be doing little more than slowing them down. And then there was a large knight who blocked all of their attacks and turned to attack. He was probably about 2.5 meters tall. It is wrapped in pitch black armor and holds a pitch black sword and a pitch black shield, and moves quickly without feeling heavy. Black Knight, fighting power is 165, so stronger than a Minotaur? Haru, seriously? While talking, I see the Black Knight in the distance, but even though he is attacked, only scratches are left on its armor. Get down. Shield. The vanguard goes down according to the words shouted by the shield of the Hero Party, and the sword of the Black Knight shines, and it made a wide slash. No one was hurt thanks to the quick decision. Everyone, let's go. Hero. The people who had retreated charged the Black Knight again at the sound of a young man's voice. Even though they were no match for him, They did not show any sign of giving up, inspiring trust from his surroundings and wiping out fear and anxiety with just one phrase. I thought he was just like a hero. However, they were unknowingly taking a step towards a tragedy. Chapter 36. Roar. Black Knight. The Black Knight's roar echoed through the cave. Of course, the voice was different from conventional beasts. It sounded like the yell of a creature that spoke a language. Shield bash, shield. When the shield of the hero party's shield shines, it smashes against the Black Knight and the monster loses its posture. Now, let's deal with it. Hero. The leader of the hero party swung his sword down. Alongside the attack, it signals the other members to use multiple skills to attack the Black Knight. Rah! Black Knight. The Black Knight blocks the attack by sticking out its shield. Still, the number of attacks cannot be suppressed, and it suffers several wounds from slashes on its back. However, the Black Knight's armor was hard. The slashes did leave cuts in the armor, but it was far from penetrating. Yuki, the armor is impossible to destroy. Let's break his stance and aim for the joints. Shield. Roger that. Hero equals greater than Yuki. It seems that the leader of the party is Yuki. Yuki holds his sword parallel to the ground and moves from side to side, making his way towards the Black Knight. I'm going. Inferno. Magician. Fire magic flew from the magician of the hero party flew towards the Black Knight at a breakneck speed, but it was just slashed by its great sword. However, the flame spreads. The fire magic was scattered and starts to burn its surrounding. That was Inferno. The slashed Inferno left some of its flames on its sword, thus the Black Knight was soon burning too. Growl. Black Knight. The Black Knight swung its sword and shield chaotically, perhaps trying to dispel the flames. However, its movements were without thought, leaving the monster full of gaps. Heaven's judgment. Yuki's skill cuts through its neck that wasn't covered in armor. Blood spurts from the neck, but the attack did not fully penetrate and the Black Knight swung its sword, screaming in pain. I can see a way to win. All of you, let's take this seriously. Yuki. Yeah. Party members. Yes. Party members. Yuki's voice gave the whole team momentum again. Everyone should go with their maximum power. Vanguard's charge. Yuki. Goo. Vanguards and shield. Following the instructions of the hero, the armored explorers and the shield of the hero party's shields shine and they attack the Black Knight with a completely different momentum. Their sword shines, their shield shines, and even their armor shines. Soon they overrun the Black Knight from all directions like a barrage of bullets showering its target. If the Black Knight tries to raise its hands, an attack from different directions will be directed to the joint of its arms. If it tries to kick, the attacks will come for the back of its knees, and they continue to hold it down with far more violent attacks. The skill is nearly over. Get back. Magic barrage. Yuki. As soon as they saw the light of one of the swords go out, the instructions echoed and the vanguards distanced themselves from the Black Knight. At the same time, from behind the vanguards, lightning, fire, water, ice, and earth that should have interfered with each other attack the Black Knight. This is because they are targeting the same thing. All of the attacks hit their target. Trappers start setting up. Healers. The vanguards. Yuki. Accurate instructions flew around on the spot, and the damage suffered by the 6 parties disappeared, and they are battle ready once again. Black Knight. The Black Knight, who was blown away by the barrage of magic, stood up and thrust its sword with its shield. Even though its body was tattered, the Black Knight's legs started glowing and its movements speed up. The explorers are also buffed with speed, to make their eyes catch up with the speed, but they are far from skilled. The explorers have not been able to match their senses with their bodies. It's to the extent that they are at the mercy of the skillful footsteps of the Black Knight. The Black Knight in front of them instantly turns around and slashes the back of the explorers, but the shields of the others prevent him from doing so, so he blows the shields away with all his might. However, the brute force of sheer numbers was still frightening. No matter how vigilant you are, you can't eliminate every opening. No matter how you do it, there will always be a blind spot somewhere. The more opponents you have, the more blind spots you will have. Rush. Shield. The Black Knight, who was running around between people at high speed, is pushed by a skill struck it from behind, and was suddenly pushed forward. Even if it doesn't fall, it becomes a fatal gap, and the Black Knight is attacked by a wave of skills again. Unable to attack, it is attacked by an avalanche of attacks. In this dungeon that acknowledges power, humans break the rule of 4 people and just attack. There is not a sliver or shadow of a knight's pride, and the number of scratches on the black armor increases and it soon loses its deep luster. Vanguards get back. Yuki. The wave of skills attacking it subsides, and it wields its great sword skillfully even as it suffers. But at that time the Black Knight already ran out of time and its attack does not reach. Magic barrage. Yuki. And then the bullets of light bombarded it. A number of enhanced spells pile up, tearing, burning and piercing the body of the Black Knight. Even if it blocked the bombardment with its shield, it cannot be suppressed by the power of the Black Knight, and its shield shifted from the magical impact, and pain reigned in its body again. Why is this happening? Why do they break the rules and fight through sheer numbers? Again, the vanguards approached the Black Knight and simultaneously activated skills. I was born to fight these explorers. The sword raised by the Black Knight is blown behind. It doesn't have enough strength to hold its sword. My reason for living is trampled by inexcusable trickery. Prestige. Yuki. The Black Knight, who used its shield skills to push through the limit of its power, nevertheless shines. It tries to compete with Yuki, who has increased in speed and power and gradually begins to be pushed back. I can't survive the sheer inexcusable scheming of multiple enemies. I get back. Yuki brushes off the shield that the Black Knight, who was already unarmed, that it lifted as its last stand. Yuki's attack destroys the shield that continued to resist until the end. Now, take this. Yuki, I will kill you. You're dead. Yuki. The blade, which was approaching from behind its neck, loses power and is repelled by the dull armor, and falls to the ground. The Black Knight stood up fluttering, blood dripping down its armor. In its hand, was a man wrapped in silver armor dyed red. Die. Vanguard. The body of the Black Knight is covered in black mist, and its body swells more violently, morphing to something more savage. There it was. A beast of carnage clad in black iron scraps. Haru and I were watching the battle from a distance. The Black Knight showed off some amazing moves that even we couldn't help but notice and tossed around a lot of explorers. I'd love to learn from him. A lone knight who defies the strength of many. I think that's a much cooler nickname than hero. The hero party and the others are gradually increasing the damage by piling up weak attacks under precise instructions. There were some dangerous moments along the way, such as being blown up or slashed, but in no time at all, the party that was not participating in the battle would help with recovery, so no one would die or even be seriously injured. If it stays like this, I think they can win. Haru. That's right. The Black Knight can't keep up with their number. I softly responded to Haru's comment, who also speaks softly. The explorers can fight almost infinitely as long as the magical power of their heal continues. But the Black Knight seems to be slowly getting exhausted and slowing down. I don't care if someone we don't know gets hurt or die. But if they die in front of us, we wouldn't be able to endure it. That's why we always keep our weapons at the ready, even though we don't want to be seen. If something happens, we can intervene. Is it naive of me to think this way even though I say I don't care about the death of others? But the truth is, if they were that strong, it would be a piece of cake to defeat them without even revealing ourselves. We could probably kill it in one blow without even using our treasure tool. That's why I was so unconcerned. It's not like I'm fighting it myself in the first place, so there shouldn't be a problem with my disregard. For me, at least. Hey, brother, isn't the Black Knight looking strange? Haru. I'm sure it's not magic or skill. As the Black Knight approached death, he seemed to absorb something like magical power into his body, into its core heart. Magical power is something you normally can't see. However, it creates an atmosphere of boundless darkness. It didn't seem as if absorbing something like magic power increased his abilities or restored him. It's kind of ominous, isn't it? Haru. Yeah, but it looks like it's over. Yeah, it's over. I said, upon seeing Yuki use his skills to destroy the Black Knight's shield. Immediately behind the Black Knight, a person who was donned in silver armor is holding a big sword and using his skills. The tip is firmly pointed at the neck, and at that distance, nothing would stop it. Let's go home. Haru. Oh, let's go home, shall we? Gan. Squelch. As I sheathed my sword and replaced it with a knife. When Haru loosened her grip on the tonfa, and, most importantly, when we turned our heads back, convinced that the explorers had won. We heard that sound, the sound of metal being pierced and meat being crushed, and then the sound of blood splattering. We instinctively knew what had happened, and even though we didn't want to look, our dungeon-trained minds turned back in alarm. It was the Black Knight who was being enveloped by something black, and a human who was now impaled in its hand. Vanguard. Haru, who saw it, couldn't stand the sight and she spat out the contents of her stomach. Fortunately or unfortunately, everything in the stomach is digested and only stomach acid comes out. It's okay, Haru. Even though I was attacked by nausea, I stopped myself from vomiting and comforted Haru instead. Haru looks forward, looking quite pale, and she gazed at the Black Knight again. Haru focused her mind and announced the result of her inspection. Chapter 37. The Black Knight has transformed into an eerie figure. The Black Knight's black armor cracked and then clung tightly to itself, making it look as if it was covered in scrap iron. Its fingers tattered, and its hips bent more like a beast than before. In his hand is a sword that is a little smaller when it was still a Black Knight, and its body had become a little smaller, about 2 meters. The only thing is that its strength seems to have been condensed into its body, making it even more powerful, and we can see the magic power gushing out of its body. Jie. Black Knight. The voice it raised was definitely that of a beast. New words come to my mind. It was the same except for us, but some of the people here were surprised. Eragansine. The word error and the garbled word Gansine were there, indicating a malfunction. And then the boss's unique name appeared. It suddenly shook, and with a thud, its head fell to the ground. At the same time, the head of the silver-armored explorer that was closest to him flew off. Next to that is Gansine, who is in a position to swing its sword. The place where his head had been a moment ago was empty, just black mist floating in the air. T/N. Fun fact: Gansine is another name for Dullahan, or literally without a head. He's from Irish folklore and featured in a ton of games, movies, and printed media. BTW. I still can't find a dragon named Rindabma or something close to it. Gugaga. Gansine. The head that had fallen to the ground was picked up by the body while letting out a weird sound. After completing the series of weird actions, the heroes and many others regained their focus, and they understand it well. One of their friends was killed at a speed they couldn't even follow with their eyes. From that point on, it was a hellish scene of screaming and shouting. One by one, the strongest party in Japan was forced to move back for safety, and the bravest ones stood in front of the group, and before they knew it, they were being killed. One by one, then 2 of the silver-armored men acting as vanguards escaped, and 5 were killed in battle. The rearguard had all fled, and there was no one left. And just now, the last of the vanguards were killed. At the moment when Gansine's sword tried to swing towards the hero party, a bolt of light blocked it. I will not let you kill any more of my friends. I'm not sure how much weight you think human life carries. Yuki, the leader of the hero party who should have been moved to the back, he stands up to the assault like a hero. Stupidly, believing in a chance at victory. Brother, its fighting power is at 300, and its fighting power hasn't diminished. Haru. What? 300 is still understandable. The Goblin King was probably more powerful. Still, its fighting power has not decreased. Don't they evolve by shaving off their life force? Maybe it's because of the error. What should we do, brother? Haru. On the contrary, I calm myself after seeing the Haru being agitated, and for the time being, I took out a potion. When you drink a potion, your nausea can subside and so can the agitation. Haru, drink a potion too. Let's make an escape route for them for now, okay? I reached into the item pouch at my waist and pulled out an item. The staff at that time? Haru looks calmer after she drank a potion. What I have in my hand is the cane we got after hunting treants, a gnarled wooden staff with an amber jewel containing a magic circle inside it. What was it called? I mumbled to myself as I used material cognition to the wand, and as usual, the words appeared in my mind. The guardian staff of the Saintess. It was the first weapon with a unique name that we had acquired. We hadn't paid much attention to it because we couldn't use it. But this staff, when used by someone who could, was stronger than any weapon we had. I focused only on the amber, and the result when I used inspection. Amber of the spirit tree? Gives the magical power a holy attribute, and the magic circle floating in it. At first, I thought it was just a normal magic circle. Three-dimensional magic power amplification circuit. Amplifies the magic power used for magic and raises its ability. I haven't seen anything other than that wand, which has a different performance from ordinary magic circles, which cannot be made using our crafting skills. It's a great source of funding, though. Well, they say human life is valuable, right? Haru. I'll call it an investment, but they should at least do their part. I mumbled to myself as I attached a stone with a trash skill to this staff and released it. Even if after everyone else escaped, one of the hero party is trying to join Yuki, the woman with heal proficiency. Risa's perspective. Yuki just wields his sword against the Ganshin. Its speed has already exceeded the limit of its level, and it does not even allow anyone to support him from behind. The good thing is that Ganshin is wrapped in madness and only targets people closest to Yuki-kun. Behind him, I could only watch Yuki-kun's battle anxiously, relieved that I could not be the first to be killed. The other vanguard, Gauta, also moves slowly because of the heavy armor he wears, so he can't join the battle. I thought that if we escaped, Yuki-kun would be able to escape at the right moment, but I soon realized that it was impossible. I think Yuki-kun is being toyed by it. His sword never hits Ganshin. They are all parried by a light swing of its sword. Nevertheless, Yuki-kun's body is covered with countless cuts. At this rate, everyone will die. It was when I thought about those words. No, maybe it was more accurate when I was convinced of it. Anyway, that was the time. A staff rolled under me, who belongs to the hero party and has heal proficiency. I was surprised and turned around to the one who dropped it, but there was only the path and nobody was there. Gently I touched the cane, a gnarled wood and a reddish jewel that looked like it came from a fantasy novel. I'm sure this jewel is called amber. I took the staff in my hand and noticed a small stone on it, which I wiped off with my hand. What is this? Risa. As soon as my hand touches the stone, words appear in my mind. This is the description of the wand. The guardian staff of the Saintess. Gives the magical power a holy attribute. Sanctuary. Sanctuary. Create a space where monsters can't enter. Only those with heal proficiency can use it. Guaya. Ganshin. Ganshin's screams of madness regained my focus, and I saw Yuki-kun, who backed away from Ganshin for a moment. There's distance is a small gap in his defense that can be used with just a small step. Yuki-kun seems to have difficulty even moving, his body now covered with large wounds. But then, something burst from within me. So I cried, swinging the guardian staff before I caught up with my thoughts. I just followed my instincts. Protect Yuki-kun. Sanctuary. Risa. My voice echoed in this place where there are only 4 of us left. When Ganshin slashed at Yuki-kun, who was already having difficulty moving, and its body got nearer in my eyes, a translucent barrier shining in bright red spread out and blocked the sword. There's a big crack in the barrier, but it doesn't look broken. With no time to think, I swung the guardian staff of the Saintess again. Area, stamina heal, Risa. The cave is filled with light again, and this magic has a distinctly different potency than before. I relieved the exhaustion from Yuki and my friends within the area. Everyone, run away. Risa. Oh. Gauta. Alright. Yuki. I understand. Inferno. Arasute Ganshin was confused by the sudden appearance of the barrier, but quickly understood and hit the barrier with his sword. The cracks spread easily, but suddenly a large flame spreads across its vision. It brushes it away with its hand, but the flames that seem to cling to it never leave its sight. By the time it had used its skills to extinguish the glowing red barrier along with the abominable flames, there was no one in sight, let alone in Ganshin's detection range. Gajajua. Ganshin. It shouted like a madman in anger that its prey had escaped. However, it seems that its crazy thoughts were simple, and it forgot about the prey it had let escape, and immediately began to walk in search of the prey he could find. It was at that time, we'll do something about him. If we let it move around any longer, the Tokyo dungeon will be destroyed. Yep, I don't want to lose to a crazed monster. I didn't care about the people who died. This will be a battle for morning. Haru. The real strongest party has begun to move. Chapter 38. So, now that they're all gone, even if we participate from here, it won't count as more than 4, right? Probably. Then, at the same time, Haru. We are hiding in the corner of the path, just like before. The stone attached to the cane that was thrown to the recovery roll of the brave men had the skill, Self-introduction. Self-introduction. If you use it while the item is in contact with your body, you can see the details of that item. Once you use it, the skill disappears. Items with skills are activated by letting magical power flow. Moreover, the healer of the hero party had her hand clad in magical power due to the tense atmosphere of the situation. So, in order for her to notice the power of this cane, I used alchemy, transferring the skill from the stone with the skill, self-introduction, to a place where she could touch it. Then I threw it to her. The result is a great success. Although the sanctuary was torn in a blink of an eye, it seems that they were able to escape properly, and they probably went down to the 10th floor. Since their reaction disappeared. Now, the Ganseen walks in the immediate vicinity without noticing us. We are ambushing it. I hold my sword and Haru holds her tonfa and we prepare to activate our magic. Obviously, a large area would be better to fight with this guy. That's because we are originally both have proficiencies suited for rearguards. The best position for me to show my strength is in close and medium range, quick, and dynamic combat. Haru, on the other hand, shows her true strength at close range and long range. That's why it's effective to have a wide area where I can get in front of her and she can keep her distance at any time. We have also improved considerably in the past month. We were able to level up and increase our skills by 2. That's not much though. Name, Haruka. Proficiency, Magic, Craft. Magic attribute, Fisher, Explosion, Electric. Level, 67. Strength, 77. Magic capacity, 157. Skill, Analysis, Magic Bullets, Rampage, Magic Synthesis. Magic, Bomb, Time Bomb, Impact, Number, Plasma, Fisher, Separation, Barrier, Collapse. Passive, Magic Recovery, Detection, Crafting, Magic Manipulation. Name, Tuka. Proficiency, Grant, Alchemy. Magic attribute, None, Curse. Level, 68. Strength, 97. Magic capacity, 130. Skill, Stealth/Positioning, Material Cognition, Domination, Shortcut. Magic, Speed, Power, Guard, Bind, Chain, Slow, Loss, Unprotect. Passive, Perception, Acceleration, Alchemy. If I use even a little bit of magic, it will detect the movement of my magic at that moment. And while chanting, we would enter the battle. But an ambush attack with a straightforward attack is not powerful enough. That's why I'm going to use my new skill. When that Ganseen was right next to where we were hiding, I used that skill. Shortcut. Shortcut was a rare skill that required you to say a word. However, it was very easy to use, allowing you to use up to 5 designated skills or magic at the same time. The downside was that it had a cooldown of 4 hours. In addition, only one configuration was possible. Thanks to this, I hardly ever used it. I had set up 5 magic spells in Shortcut, just in case. I had set up 5 spells to buff myself, Speed, Power, Guard, and Chain. And then there's Unprotect, which lowers the enemy's defense, for a total of 5. 4 magic circles appeared on my body, and at the same time, a magic circle appeared on Ganseen. I was ready. I kicked the ground and jumped out in front of Ganseen just before his consciousness and body turned toward me. I was now in front of its sight. Ganseen swung its fist without running away, so I dodged and slipped through his crotch. And Gagajiga. Ganseen. My attack is increased by power, while the defensive ability of my opponent is lowered by Unprotect. Then, the sword that I swung while using the skills, Strong Slash, connected at the back of Ganseen. Ganseen lost his balance and stepped on the spot, which became an opening. Hey, back off. Magic Synthesis, Fisher, Separation, Collapse. Haru. As I backstepped, the space where Ganseen stood cracked, separated and collapsed. In the blink of an eye, something that didn't seem to be space was created. There was no vacuum, no air, no light, no color, no visible or invisible. It was something that words could not describe. Take this. That something began to suck in Ganseen, who was close by, with great force, but Ganseen resisted. But when Haru hit it with her tonfa, it was sucked straight into it. However, there is no such thing as a special move where a hole actually opens in space and he is sucked into it and disappears. At the same time, Ganseen slipped through the hole and fell to his knees, his body falling to pieces at the same time. At the same time as its body was being torn apart, Even the wounds I had made were separating, and the scrap iron armor was missing from several parts of its back. However, Guguyaguwa. Ganseen shouts as it holds its sword to pursue me. Its voice is mixed with magical power, just like Rindabma, and although we were not blown away, I froze and stopped moving. As a result, my next dodge action is delayed. So close, Ku. The moment I jumped back while defending with my sword, the sword passed through where I was and ripped the front of my hoodie. The tremendous wind pressure is released following the slash, and the hood of the hoodie falls from my head. Haru, this is bad. Back for a bit. While instructing Haru, I switched my sword from my right hand to my left. The previous Ganseen's attack should have been parried with the sword and was brushed off so that it had no effect on me. What was unexpected was the power of Ganseen. His powerful sword strike could not be deflected and sliced through my hoodie. This, of course, meant that my right hand, which was holding the sword, was also subjected to a strong impact. I managed to keep the sword from falling, but my hand was useless. I don't think my bones were broken, but I couldn't put any strength into that hand or bend it. Brother, get back. You have 5 seconds. Haru, sorry, you can't block or parry its attack. Its skills can break your arm. I watch Haru jump in front with her Tunfu and I cast speed and guard on her. I stepped back, sheathing my sword with my unbending, wobbly hand, ripped the bottom of my hoodie with my knife, and wrapped the scabbard around my arm. It seemed to have at least a crack in it, and it hurt like hell, but I drank a potion to suppress the pain. Naturally, the cause of the pain, my arm, did not heal. It was not a shallow wound that could be healed with a potion. Brother, are you okay? I don't think I can fight this for a long time. I can't keep it in check any longer. Barrier. Haru creates a barrier in front of herself and steps back. The barrier was destroyed in an instant, but it gave her time to recover. Did an attack get you? I can't. I'm weaker than brother, so I ran for my life, but I did my best. Haru. She gathered information with her magical power while distracting Ganseen, but with a fighting power of 300, its strength is abnormal. Maybe it's a physical power specialized monster. Yeah. It used some kind of magic on the way, but it was a negligible amount. Sighing, I swing my left hand behind the sword held in my other hand. Let's do a quick decisive battle. Don't hesitate to use magical power. Let's use the treasure tools. Roger that. Haru, let's go. With that shout, I step with my right foot and throws my sword with all my might. Gaegwa. Ganseen. The Ganseen, who was vigilant, flicked my sword. However, it gives me a few seconds. Scythe. Morning Star. Haru. My scythe fits comfortably in my hand stretched forward while still in a throwing position. We use the treasures for the first time in a long time. Even though I am holding it with my left hand, which is unusual, it fits perfectly in my hand. Rampage. Haru. Haru's magical power goes wild with her shout. Domination. My magical power froze with my voice. Let's go. Let's go. Haru, our magical restrictions are gone, and I used shortcut on both Haru and me consecutively. Not surprisingly, too, unprotect, replied Ganseen. If you think about it, having being specialized in strength, it's true for the reverse. It means that it has low magic capacity and its resistance to magic is also low. Haru, if so, this one seems to have some magical skills. We just have to crush it with magical power. Haru. Our words overlap without looking at each other, and even our magical powers overlap. Haru's chaotic magic and my tranquil magic. The two magic powers, which by nature cannot be combined, enhance each other and become the magic power of controlled violence. Gagaga. Ganseen. Thorny Vine suddenly jumped out from the side of Ganseen, who swung its sword and thrust into it, slammed Ganseen violently and stopped its attack. However, as expected, it specializes in strength. Immediately regaining its posture and approached us while moving its body from side to side so as not to receive the same attack. Magic synthesis. Fissure, separation, collapse. Haru. As if chasing after the running Ganseen, a crack appears in the space, and the moment it exits the right side of the crack, space was separated, and only the place where Ganseen stood is shattered. Jaya. Ganseen. The collapsing space gouged out his left arm, and the wound was contagious. It crushed Gansin's left arm and even gouged out part of his shoulder. If it was a living creature and it was working with all its limbs, it would naturally be confused if one of its limbs was lost. It's the same for Gansin. Haru's morning star, who has narrowed the distance by a lot, blows its head that it was holding in its left that was now gone. The head it had just held in its hand was suddenly blown away. I think it panicked, and that left a fatal gap. I approached at breakneck speed while aiming at its foot, and with my left hand, I swung my scythe and aimed it at Gansin's foot. It noticed my attack and tried to avoid it by backstepping, but its feet were slower than the rest of its body. The scythe easily slashed Gansin's right foot. Gagaigaia. Gansin. The voice of Gansin reverberated. The voice was probably not a scream, but a cry of pain or a dying howl. The voice was not filled with bloodlust, and instead, it sounded fearful. Sensing that we had used up all of our magic and that the 10 minutes and a bit of time we had left to use the weapon were almost up, we moved our feet, wobbly with fatigue, and went underneath Gansin, who was crawling on the ground because he had lost his right leg, left hand, and head. Haru and I stand next to it, and the two of us point our weapons at it. Die, collapse. Haru. My control over the magic, which has increased in power due to my outburst, is firmly wrapped around Gansin. Gansin, enveloped in the collapsed space, did not even let out a scream of despair. When our magic power hit the bottom and the magic disappeared, there was only a black fog that had no place to escape. The condensed black mist dispersed into the dungeon as the siblings celebrated their victory. Chapter 39. I gazed blankly at the black fog that was evidence of Gansin, who has now drifted away. It was the strongest enemy so far. Yup, the location was bad, but it was also the most powerful. Of all the battles we've fought and won, Haru was right. The strongest monster we had ever met was none other than Rimdabma. But if you don't count the outlandish ones that can't even be fought, I'd say this one is the strongest. By the way, how about drop items? Hearing Haru's words, I looked at the place where Gansin had died and found a few dropped items. I think there are a lot of them this time. I'm not sure if it's the fact that he was treated like a boss that's causing so many drops. Maybe it's a reward from the dungeon for killing the error. We wasted no time in sorting through the items and Haru took a look at them. The first one, item pouch, medium, can store up to 10 tons and cancel out their weight. The item pouch he had been using was a small pouch, so it must have gotten a step larger. It's now 10 tons, compared to the previous one's 1 ton. I can now carry a car easily. I think I'll manage this one at home. Since Haru doesn't like to carry luggage, she'll carry the 1-ton item pouch and I'll carry the 10-ton one. Then the second one, or rather, the second and third, proof of combat with 2, proof of subduing an error with just 2 people. If you party with someone who has the paired equipment, you will receive compensation, fixed, restore, try on. There were 2. The shape is that of a friendship bracelet. T/N. Misanga or are braided bracelets given for good luck or as a sign of friendship. Google Sensei has pictures of this. I wonder if I should put it on my arm. It's not an ordinary item, so if I try to channel magical power, oh, brother, it shrank. It fits perfectly on my wrist. There was something like that. By the way, I think that is the effect of one of the attached skills, so Haru uses their inspection on the skills, fixed, unchanging, item-only skill. I have no idea, but I don't think people can learn item-only skills. Returns to you when you wherever you are as long as you consciously do so. Item-only skill. Well, as the word says, try on. Match the size to fit the wearer. Item-only skill. I guess this is the result of Haru's testing earlier. I also put it through my right hand and let the magic flow through it to make it the perfect size. It's not a problem, but it's not a hindrance, and it's not too tight either. Now, it was time for the 4th one. I thought the 4th one would be an ordinary magic stone, but apparently, it is not. Magic ball, medium. You can store up to 1000 points of magic power. Well, it just saves magical power. It's great, and it seems that it can be taken out. Haru uses more magical power than I do, so I'll give this to Haru. Currently, our magical power is almost empty, so we didn't proceed with the experiment. And the 5th. The 5th was a sticker, or maybe it's a tattoo rather than a sticker. Skill sticker. If you put the sticker on your skin, you will be able to use the set skill, Spatial awareness. It will become fixed on your skin after about 1 minute. It will come off if a large amount of magical power is applied. Spatial awareness. Perceive the space 2 meters around you. Is spatial awareness able to increase the density of information further, and the accuracy is improved compared to perception that I already have? I got it because I'm stronger in close combat. I put it on the back of my left hand, waited a minute, and it disappeared like a flash. I don't feel anything when I touch it. I don't think it's there, but I wonder if it's the kind of thing you can't find if you forget where you put it. And finally, the most problematic one that I tried not to look at. A sword without a scabbard. Spirit sword of the paladin. It's a holy sword, and adds holy attributes to slashes. It can only be used by those with sword proficiency. Sword of faith. Sword of faith. Strengthen the blade with holy light. Only available to those with sword skills. Brother, what are we going to do? It came to us like the companion of that staff at that time. If you look closely, you'll also see a flat magic circle on it. Haru, really, what are we going to do? It's too powerful for us to sell. What should we do? Donate it? Haru, to the hero party. It would be bad if we were exposed that we were here. Yeah, but, brother, 4 people are approaching. They seem to be quite cautious. They're coming very slowly. Haru, oh, so we'll ask them? Yeah, that's the idea. Haru, we smiled wickedly and carefully polished the parts we had touched. I forgot to do this with the wand, but I don't want to get fingerprints on it. Then, since my right hand was stuck, I held the sword in my left hand and lifted it upward with the tip pointing downward. Power. I'm going to use a little bit of magic to give myself a little bit of power. Yuria. Clang. I thrust it into the ground as hard as I could. As a matter of course, the ground of the dungeon was hard, and it was firmly buried as it made the sound of the ground and the sword collide with each other. Okay, Haru, can you get it out? I'll try it. It's impossible. Haru grabbed the hilt of the sword and pulled on it, but it wouldn't come off. It seems that the people who were coming toward us heard the sound of the sword stabbing the ground, and the signs of them coming here are getting faster. We'll meet them in a dozen seconds. Then, do you want to go home? Yup. Haru. We descended to the 10th level, activating stealth again, and used the transition back. By the way, brother. Haru. What? Does your right arm hurt? Haru. Oh, that reminds me. Because of the adrenaline, I had forgotten about the pain. But now I remembered it and I went straight to the hospital with tears in my eyes. More than 10 days later, we were standing in the dungeon market with my right arm wrapped in a bandage. It seems that after we left, the sword was safely found and handed over to the hero. I saw on the internet news that it was handed over to a craftsman who made a scabbard for it. Then the dungeon market, with the fall of Ganseen explorers who were looking forward to being able to use the dungeons, resumed their activities at once, and the economy in the market must be running well. Furthermore, even many magic items, regardless of their strong or weak effects, began to circulate, and there were even auctions being held. It is still fresh in my mind that an item pouch, very small, that can hold up to 100 kilograms easily exceeded 10 million yen. Unfortunately, we were not the ones who sold it. We have the small and medium item pouches, but not the very small ones. However, we have items that we have been collecting for a long time without item pouches, or rather, I have made them. This is a sword that was dropped by a unique monster in the 8th layer of the Kaizaki family dungeon. It's cool, but of course, the material is weak. That's why Haru and I modified it. Simply put, we used alchemy to combine an axe's skill into a sword. This alone made it very strong. I thought about preparing something else to sell, but I couldn't stand the thought of being spotted, so I left it at that. Of course, it has their strong skill in it. When we put it up for auction anonymously, most of the people who tried to buy it couldn't even hold the weapon. We had forgotten that there was a level requirement for dungeon weapons. In addition, this sword was made from the drop of a minotaur that even the hero party had not beaten, so there was no way an ordinary explorer could carry it. Will it be sold as it is? It's quite expensive, but 893 people who seem to have just come to check some equipment tried to buy it. Normally, if there is only one buyer, the amount should go down. But 893 people making bids bloated the price to a ridiculous level. Oh, This weapon has a requirement of level 23. Can't the leader use it? A level of 23 is a high level that high-level explorers can reach by raising a few more levels. If that's the case, it's only natural that they would want to buy one while he can. From there, it became a bidding war between higher-level explorers who were making a lot of money from their daily exploration. In the end, the price came to about 5 million yen. After commissions and other fees were deducted, the amount dropped to about 4 million yen. But it could not be helped. I thought it was just the way it was and accepted it. Now, ordinary citizens like us haven't received any detailed information about the government's response after the subjugation of Gansin. But, well, now that we have a good income, I guess you're done with your obsession with the Tokyo dungeon. I guess so. Where should we go next? Since we have the money, let's go to Hokkaido. Haru. After all, it doesn't change much because it's Japan. For now, I need to heal my right arm and find something to do. I won't be working part-time for a while. That's right. Haru. While talking about such trivial things, the two of them went around the dungeon market and left without buying anything. There is no one who knows that the siblings are really the strongest. Today, the siblings are still pretending to be ordinary people in search of entertainment. Chapter 40. Immediately after the Kaizaki siblings returned from the dungeon, the sword they had stuck into the ground was found safe and sound. However, the people who came there were scouts and covert personnel from the advanced explorers who heard about it from the people who escaped. Since their proficiency was trap and hunter, their fighting potential was naturally not high. As a matter of course, the sword could not be pulled out. If that is the case, they should call someone who can pull it out, so they decided to call the hero party again. However, the hero party had already made the transition to and from today and was exhausted from the battle with Gansin. It would be the next day before they could draw their swords. However, even though the sword was stuck in the dungeon, it was still a drop item. Being an item, it would disappear if we left it where no one would see it. At first, the two members of the advanced explorers team who found the sword went back to the surface to call for the hero party, while the other stood by the sword in a sleepy stupor. When the sword was pulled out by Yuki's hand, the person was exhausted and could not rest because of the frequent attacks of not-so-dangerous monsters. The person was exhausted. After a lot of research, it was determined that the sword was a drop from Gansin, since it was obviously strange that it fell in this level considering the strength of the sword, and the sword resembled the sword that Gansin had. It is widely believed that it used the last of its strength to hunt down the hero party, and after they escaped, it ran out of energy while searching for them and died stabbing the sword in the ground. Fortunately, the sword remained as a drop in that state. By the way, the staff that the hero party's recovery user got by chance is said to be a miracle of the dungeon and is still using it. And then, the hero party was treated as having successfully defeated Gansin, and once again attracted the attention of explorers throughout Japan. The information was spread through the internet to all the explorers in Japan at an unusually fast pace. It seems that a certain individual had opened a forum site for explorers, and the forum site had become a place for explorers to exchange information. The site has now been absorbed by a large company and has been expanded to include more functions. As a result of its fame, there was a lot of talk about giving famous explorers an alias. When it comes to famous explorers, the one that comes to mind is the hero party, a group with overwhelming power. Yuki, the leader, is the hero because he is a young man with overwhelming fighting power and a sense of justice. Gota, the shield user of the heroes, is the fortress because of his ironclad defense. Arisu, the magic user among the heroes, because she uses flames that are just as powerful as Yuki's, so she's the flame mage. And Risa is the recovery user of the brave party. She was called the Saintess because she succeeded in letting the heroes escape in the battle against Gansin, and because of the restorative power of her magic. The first 20 explorers and other strong explorers were also given aliases, which increased the number of explorers' ranked connections. The more ranked connections between explorers, the more skilled the explorers become, and the more crowded the market becomes. In addition, the purchase price of items in dungeons has been gradually increasing recently. The strength of items obtained by explorers in dungeons has increased, and since the machine for checking innate skills was placed in Tokyo, the number of people who can use innate skills without killing hobgoblins has also increased. By processing items in the dungeon, people with production skills such as crafting, and costuming, were able to create weapons and armor that had sharpness and durability compensated in the dungeon. As a result, the income of the strongest dungeon explorers was quite high, and dungeons quickly became a part of society to the point where some children wanted to become explorers as a lucrative job if they had the skills. After that, the hero party used their newly acquired weapons to defeat the Minotaur, and the exchange of information with the Americans, who had apparently finished defeating the Minotaur a long time ago, increased. There is no end to the number of things that have changed. But still, what does anyone actually know? The lives of ordinary people have not changed as much as one might think. That's why it took 2 months for Tuka Kaizaki to fully recover from a fracture in his arm. The world moves forward smoothly. In the midst of all this, a piece of information is delivered from the United States, which causes an uproar in Japan. But more on that later. This is the story of the Kaizaki siblings as they resume their dungeon search. Chapter 41. On August 1st, 10 dungeons appeared all over Japan. The phenomenon was happening all over the world, and the world was plunged into chaos. However, it was only temporary, and now a year has passed since then. Every country has stabilized, and they are being controlled by the military, open to private individuals, or used to the disposal of garbage by taking advantage of the regular phenomenon of things vanishing inside the dungeon after a period of time has passed. In addition, dungeons have been used in various ways. Notably, they are being used for the disposal of dangerous substances such as radioactive materials. At first, there were many things we didn't know about dungeons, but as the days went by, we learned more and more. However, each country decided that there was still insufficient information, and finally last month, more than a dozen countries that are exploring the dungeons gathered to have exchange information. Then the meeting was held. Although they don't say how far their own country's exploration has progressed, you can get a general idea by looking at what's on the market. Currently, the United States is at the top of the list, followed by Japan and China. Therefore, this conference has become more about getting information from the US. In addition, the ranking of natural skills that were done in Japan was well received and will be done in other countries as well. It seems that the United States has gained some understanding of how dungeons work after the discovery of one of the American participants with an S-class skill. Among other things, he was able to tell them something that is safe to teach to other countries. That dungeons have a system and clear rules. This includes exploring with more than 4 people, and that those who ignore the rules will not be given the benefits of the dungeon. In other words, an explorer who enters a dungeon with more than 5 people for the first time will be considered to be in a party of 5 before gaining the first skill, and will not even be able to gain the skill, which is a reward from the dungeon. Also, dungeons have a system of hate, and if you continue to hunt certain monsters, the hate will gradually accumulate and cause unique monsters and stampedes. If you violate the rules of the dungeon, the hate will build up at an abnormal rate, causing a large number of unique monsters and stampedes to occur. In many parts of the world, the day a dungeon was created, civilians and military personnel have infiltrated and were completely annihilated. For example, and this was thought to be the effect of this, some parties ignoring the rules appeared in the dungeon, which would have resulted in several stampedes and unique monsters. They were quickly swallowed up by the hordes of monsters since they couldn't shoot even if they raised their guns immediately, and they didn't even have the proficiency and skills to fight with their batons. Also, dungeon bosses and unique monsters have a will. Some of them can think as much as a human, while others have intelligence equivalent to that of a highly intelligent animal. However, the fact that they have wills means that they are unpredictable, and unique monsters can even move through the levels, which is why they are said to have been released from the dungeon. The meeting went well, and each country was able to gain the knowledge necessary for dungeon exploration. The story goes back to Japan. About 2 weeks after the siblings defeated the Dullahan-like Ganshin that day, they successfully defeated the Minotaur and arrived at the forest. This was their first encounter with the Japanese Rimdabma. However, the only thing that was passed down to the public was that there was a dragon, so it's unclear if it's exactly a Rimdabma, but looking at the dungeon so far, it's safe to assume that all dungeons have a similar structure. And the term the strongest 5 was coined to refer to the top 5 parties, a term created during the title, alias Commotion with the strongest explorers. Of these 5 strong parties, the 4 parties other than the hero party also succeeded in defeating the Minotaur one after another. Just 2 weeks ago, There were reports that ordinary explorers had also defeated a Minotaur. Japan is constantly getting stronger and stronger, the market is getting richer, and the tropic explorers and those who have made a fortune are earning over 1 billion yen a month. The dungeon market in Japan is getting more and more exciting. However, it is a pity that they are not a stock company and you cannot make money through stocks. If it were a stock company, the stock price would be rising rapidly. The hero party that came to the Tokyo dungeon at that time has returned to Hokkaido and is continuing their exploration. And my sister and I, congratulations. Haru. Finally, I can dive into the dungeon. We have to save money again because we have to pay for food. We are now in the hospital. I'm not sure what to do, but I'm sure I'll be able to do it. But that doesn't mean I can let her dive into the dungeon alone. So we've both been taking a break for almost 3 months. We've had a lot of time on our hands these past 3 months. Ever since the dungeon appeared in the Kaizaki house, we've been spending our days hiding in the dungeon. It's no wonder we've been bored since we suddenly can't spend such days in the dungeon anymore. Fortunately, my bones hadn't been broken too badly, so my recovery was quick. The cast is off, but I'm not allowed to play sports. So what should we do with all this spare time? Fortunately, we had a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little bit, that we made from the auction. If we can't dive into the dungeon at this point, why don't we just train? Even though my bone has a hairline fracture, my body is sturdy and I have a high status. In other words, if I recover to the point where I have a cast, it won't get any worse unless I am seriously hit with a weapon. But once we're in the dungeon, I don't know what will happen to it due to the recoil when I slash the enemy. That's why we went to a swordsmanship class for about a month. The course was held 4 times a week, and we were taught the basics of various techniques, from footwork to sword strikes. Our status and daily combat had improved our kinetic vision considerably. We were able to see the movements of the instructor and move our bodies as if we were tracing them. Since we fight in dungeons on a daily basis, our adaptability is well tested. After a month in the dojo, I think we've become a bit stronger. Our posture is no longer shaky when wielding weapons, and our movement has improved in terms of speed and fluidity of gait. I thought that being taught would be better than just doing it randomly based on my own experience, and so today, my arm is completely healed. I guess it's a pity that the x-rays cost a bit of money. After leaving the hospital, we went straight home, but the time was too limited to go straight into the dungeon. So we spent some time taking care of our equipment, which we hadn't used for a long time, and checking the news. I hadn't been watching the news much lately, as I had been concentrating on practicing my sword fighting in the dojo, which was coming to an end. Okay, maintenance finished. Haru seemed to have already finished and was tapping away at the computer on the table beside her. Oh, what? Oh, my God, brother, look at this, look at this. Haru must have seen some news or an incident in the dungeon because she pulled my arm and dragged me to the computer. What? Wow, seriously? The article displayed there was far beyond my imagination. America confirmed defeat of 16th level forest boss, Rimdabma. Speaking of Rimdabma, it was the one we had been unable to defeat. With a power of 1050, he drove us to the point of being incapacitated with just its raw. Compared to that time, my level has risen by about 20, but I still don't feel like we can beat him. My current level is about 70, so my fighting potential is about 210. I think it's strange that Rimdabma is 3 times more powerful than Ganshin in the first place. So the party that defeated Rimdabma in America must be incredibly strong compared to us. We have to do our best to start exploring again from tomorrow. Haru. They hadn't read the article carefully because they thought they understood the content just from the title.